So Mithra has a direct correlation with Baphomet and Hermes. So it's not just me going, oh, you're pulling at strings. No, this is an actual ritual with Mithraism, which connects with Knights Templar worshipping of Baphomet. So again, Hermeticism, hermaphrodite. Baphomet you see is reflected in the mirror in the Vatican. Christ pagan doppelganger, Nimrod's son Tammuz. Yeah, it's just Satan. Not quite. Think of the Avatar, their savior figure. Their savior figure does something for them. Christ did something for us as well. But theirs is a earthly, I did something for you. Whereas Christ, in contrast, is I gave you something celestial.
Aloha and welcome back to another show, guys. For this episode, I highly recommend you watch this on YouTube, Spotify, or Rumble. Today, we're thrilled to have a very special guest, Brandon Kroll, the brilliant mind behind Krollology 101. Brandon has delved deep into the mysteries of ancient symbols and their connection to modern-day lore, uncovering secrets that have been hidden throughout history. In today's episode, Lord of the Stars, we'll explore these hidden mysteries together. Before we dive in, I want to invite you to help us grow our podcast Ohana. Follow us and leave a positive review. We're excited to hear your thoughts and would like to bring more thought-provoking content like this. If you've got a strange encounter story, or if you're interested in being a guest on our show, please email us. And to help support Brandon in his transition and continue enjoying content from him, consider making a one-time donation or join his Patreon for just $10 a month. Your support can make a significant difference as he dedicates himself fully to creating more engaging and enlightening content. Every bit helps in ensuring that Brandon can continue to share his knowledge and insights without financial constraints. Join his community on Patreon and be part of his journey. Now, on to the show.
Yeah, Lords of the Stars. It's something where within the Bible, we're constantly going after ancient Israel with, oh, look, they fell away from God. Silly Israel. Shouldn't have done that. But we don't really understand a lot with the symbolism of what their idolatry means. Gary's stuff, as I saw you just had him on again, he would delve more into the Titan aspect. I'm going to say Titanic as in all things related thereof and therein, of how they admired them so much. And you have Ham, Noah's son. Somehow he's helped preserve this. This goes into the next one. This goes into the next one. And they've kept this mythos and symbiotic possession of this demonic beings all throughout time and history. And this is where they're going to establish a kingdom, Tower of Babel 2.0. And I'm going to try to relay in more cookie cutter sense, because maybe I went too far for you last time, but very basic for folks, because I know some of them are always asking, could you do a little bit more of a thorough breakdown of Tammuz and Nimrod themselves? So I'm going to try to articulate that. If you have any questions, do feel that you are speaking on behalf of all listeners, because I'm sure there's something there I may not have observed.
Okay, no problem. And before we get started, this is completely side note. Have you ever watched the show Shogun on what is it, on Hulu?
Shogun?
Yeah.
Oh, the Japanese thing?
Yeah.
No. I want
you should.
to.
You should.
I am a huge I'm not anime. There's only like 2 animes, and if they have a noir aspect, I love. And I watch a lot of South Korean, Japanese, and Chinese movies, like especially war epics. I'm in love with them. And so if that's something going to a period piece, I'm probably going to be totally enthralled.
It is. Yeah. It is. And I say that because you look like the actor that plays Anjin.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Somebody was telling me before I grew the whiskers, somebody was saying I had very Jim Carrey-esque. Some people see it.
No,
and then somebody else was saying I look like the actor who plays Arrow from the Arrowverse series.
I don't know. Okay, I
Yeah,
have to
he's like, if you got
check.
a green hood or something like that, he's like, I could see you playing that character. I was just like, oh, I always did want to
Well,
do a little acting, you know.
well, don't you do? I saw that you did the audio books. You actually did reading, right?
I've done some excerpts. I'm going to be asking that particular author.
See, I saw.
Yeah, yeah, I want to ask him if he'd be okay if I read some of his excerpts. And again, I might mispronounce some certain words, so we can say phrases. But at the same time, it would be promoting his work. People buy his stuff.
Yeah,
It's like it's a win-win. I'm just reading short
yeah,
little things of I never heard that before, and it gets shared, and then people want to buy the book, and so I think it's a win-win. I just have to make sure
yeah.
I communicate and lay this all out there.
You never did audiobook though, reading? I could have swore you were on something
I
on
would like
audiobook.
to.
Huh.
I've had.
Some
You're like the fourth individual to tell me to do something like that.
Oh
I
wow.
still would have to delve into knowing how to connect to certain folks and whatnot. But I have done some acting before, especially when I was in college. We were part of a group called the College Guys. You can still find it on Facebook. And I got to play a really quirky detective guy. And I loved playing it. I got to do a funny voice. I was wearing like a very thick little mustache, kind of like one of the Marx brothers, Groucho Marx. And then I had these
Yeah,
big
yeah.
sideburns and a ridiculous little like Irish cap. I love playing into that because I really like role playing into the quirky character or the one that has a really dark side. And then once you find out who they are, you're like, oh wow, that's a really messed up backstory. You know, I like
Yeah,
playing those kind of characters. Even when I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons, I like the role playing aspect of that kind of character.
yeah. But you have to see Anjin and you'll see what I'm saying. When you look at him, you're going to be like, oh, yeah,
It's
does
me.
look like me. Yeah, it does. I know. When I was watching, I was like, I was telling my husband, he looks like Brandon Kroll.
Now I gotta
So,
look this up.
anyway, yes,
Good to know.
please
Good
do.
to know. Do we already have share screen on?
Yes, it should
We
be.
do. Look at you ahead of. Oh
Should
wow,
be.
we're perfect. Okay. Let's see. Is that good?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. Yep.
Bring it up a little closer. And I can share that with you, and you can do all your extra mods and whatnot if you would like. Because I literally
Okay.
customized this particular one just for you.
Oh, yay. Thank
And
you.
luckily, AI spelled
Beautiful.
Hollywood correctly. I was like,
They can't even spell sensible hippie right, so
they butcher it all over the place. But I was
it
like, really?
does.
That one you can spell right, which is like a 9-letter word. You could no problem. Like, okay. Um, but yeah, that's part of the thing where we're always going after Hollywood within the Christian community. And that's also a little bit, I'm burdened because I see a lot of Christians, good intentions, be they as they may, are trying to go after the occult, are always bashing the creepy 33 number or this gesture and whatnot. And in all honesty, they don't really know what they're condemning. They don't really know what it means. And so when you share it to someone else or you're trying to show it on your Facebook or call whatever profile you have, Twitter, and everybody gives you the haha emoji because you really don't have an explanation to give. You're just showing like, oh, I know that's satanic. What does it mean though? And that's what I'm trying to do with the stuff that I present is give you a biblical context so that you can go, yeah, this was in the Bible, and I know what it means now. So as opposed to just saying that's just pagan, what is paganism? Well, it's not believing in God. What do they believe in? You really don't know, do you? And that's kind of where I do come from is as a Christian, we shouldn't be judging in the sense of just condemning for the sake of condemning. It should be as wise as serpents, understand what they believe, and then now that you have the pros and cons, you can say, in contrast, this is what God and Christ offer. That's what I'd like to present to folks because if you articulate it better, you can start getting the cynics. You can start reaching the ones who are a little skeptical because you can now show the counterfeit. And that's what the Lord of the Stars is all about, is understanding the idolatry and witchcraft that is occurring back in Babel all the way till present day Hollywood. And you'll note that there's a little bit of a Caduceus staff here, the pentagram, and I have a semi like Baphomet like Hermes figure. I was very pleased actually with how this one came out. So are you familiar with Mount Hermon? So you are,
Yes.
okay.
Yes, you talked about it the last time, but please refresh.
Will do. Oh wow, that tastes so good.
What are you drinking?
My buddy brought over like a little orange thing from Dunkin'. It's doing miracles right now in my throat. Feels like sandpaper when I was swallowing.
Aw.
Um, sorry. Paramount Pictures, Mount Hermon. You'll see a little bit of a subtle reference every time that when the logo's coming down, you see all the stars, and then they circle around, and you get the Paramount logo. The logo of the Paramount Picture starts off with 22 stars falling and coming down to a mountain. The stars represent the watcher angels falling from heaven, and the mountain represents Mount Hermon, the mountain they landed on. Why 22 stars? 22 of the angels are named in the Book of Enoch as the conspirators of the pact they made on Mount Hermon to corrupt humanity and create abominations. So a lot of folks don't know, and again, I highly recommend the two main books from Dr. Michael Heiser is Reversing Mount Hermon, where I've gotten a bunch of stuff as a foundational piece for myself from a biblical insight, and the other one is Unseen Realm. Those are the two books I would recommend, because he explains that in ancient Hebrew culture, angels were known as star walkers. This is where we get the inspiration for Luke Skywalker. So these angels coming down. So stars are affiliated with angelic watchers, like beings coming down. Something I find interesting, again, like a little crescent dome. As we can see here, this is somewhere, I'm going to assume Portuguese, because are you familiar?
No, but I
Oh,
see him making a sign there, a hand
uh,
gesture.
the Hail Satan pose over a dome. And then he has this little Masonic compass aimed at a mountain that looks very similar to Mount Hermon. So, again, and what's he doing? He's breaching the dome, quote unquote, in order to do all of this. So, this is where I'm scratching my head and going, all right, if they believe it, shouldn't we at least try to look into it? And this is why I always tell folks when it comes to that question, first, I want you to go to all these UN and whatnot logo places, go after their logo. Then you come after the Globers, because all their logos are showing flat. That should give you a little bit of a why. Why are they doing that for us? They have to create this alien theory for us, or this where there's this whole space dimension, because then God gets a lot smaller, and then we get a lot smaller, and we get thinking bigger thoughts of, oh, we can go up there too and explore the stars and walk among the stars. Very interesting there, that little parallel, because astronaut, astrology, astaroth in the Bible, astronaut, that means star, N-A-U-T. Nautical, as in water,
Oh,
waters
that's
above,
weird.
waters below. What did Christ do when he was down here? He was walking on water. I wonder. I
I
wonder if that
wonder.
stuff's, yeah. And that's why I often tell folks some of it is heavy speculation, but does the Bible confirm it? Secondly, does the occult confirm it? Compare, contrast, eventually you start seeing the visuals and a story formulates itself. All I do is try to help conjecture and fill in a little bit of it's plausible. It's plausible. So, one thing to know about Nimrod, and I keep telling folks I'm going to show this sometime in a presentation, so I'm doing it today. Um, Ninartu, the god of agriculture, hunting, and war, he is affiliated with Saturn and Mercury. Nimrod saw himself as a variation of Ninartu reincarnated. This could be maybe Gilgamesh, as others might take it, and Leal. Something I was trying to compare with Gary, because yes, you had to have the originals, but what was the inspiration to get some of this Nimrod mythos that somehow you're like, well, this sounds just like Nimrod? If you're taking on the possessional identity of a being or a titan that was there before, this is something that would make plausible sense, because then you get Babel added on top of all of that. And it's like, well, which one's myth? Which one's lore? Which one's the Titan? Which one's Nimrod? Yes. So, have you ever seen The Walking Dead?
Yeah.
Remember Negan? I am
Mm-hmm.
Negan. We are all
Yes.
Negan. So anything that Negan does, everybody else. That's kind of how Babel mindset happened. Is if it was Nimrod, then everything was Nimrod. That's kind of how you have to see the symbiotic aspect. Tammuz, his son, reincarnated according to their lore, saw himself as Azazel, Lucifer incarnate. So just like God, we have this is what I'm trying to explain to folks. You can't go into full on triune because you have to understand something here. We have God the Father and we have the Son. What's significant about Christ? He's half Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, David, that whole bloodline. So he's half human. The immaculate part. What do we get in the Bible? Word became flesh. All the Old Testament, my word became flesh. My promise. This is my gift. So yes, it is separation from God, and it now becomes a father and son. Because what are Christians supposed to do? They're supposed to emulate the word. This is what it says in Hebrews. I really got to confirm this one because I keep quoting it. It's in Hebrews, or I think in Peter, where it says that the scriptures were written by holy men of God that were inspired by the Holy Spirit. Something that we don't seem to understand in a lot of mainstream Christianity, and I'm going to be doing a whole presentation on this with someone, is that we have to understand Ark of the Covenant. That's where the presence of God was kept, right?
Yes.
So if that's where God's presence was, what's the significance of a temple veil being ripped in two when Christ drew his last breath on the cross? That means no longer a high priest in here, because greater is he that is within you than he that is of the world. Know ye not that your body is a temple of the Lord? What did he say to the Pharisees? In 3 days I will tear down this temple and build it back anew. Why? Because it's not anymore about a physical building. It's now that gift, that interceder has broken that so that you can be indwelled with the Holy Spirit. Similarly, the occult, they like being possessed by demonic AI, call it whatever you will, spirits. So do you want the Holy Spirit or do you want these demonic spirits? Again, parallel and parity. But one is actually saving your soul. The other one is saying, I'll give you fleshly desires. It's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you understand it that way, you're like, so it is a son. Yes. In 1 John 2:22, he is Antichrist who deny the Father and the Son. Emphasize the and. So something, again, I find interesting that Mercury, that's connected with Hermes, and this is, again, I always tell folks you can do a basic Google, cross-reference what I'm saying, and Hermes is an equivalent of Nimrod's son Tammuz, and the fact that the planet, quote unquote, is affiliated with Saturn and Mercury in this Ninartu character, it begins to make sense. Something interesting I find with this Ninartu guy is he looks like he's getting ready to throw a lightning bolt, just like Zeus or Enlil. And the lightning bolt is affiliated with a fallen angel, as it says in Luke 18:10. I had to cross-reference it because people were getting upset, and I was like, yeah, there's something mentioned about a lightning bolt there. So are you familiar with J.K. Rowling?
Yes.
A lot of folks are. Why did she particularly pick a lightning bolt for Harry's forehead?
Never thought about it.
Fun fact, again, you can Google this, folks. Probably type in J.K. Rowling wrist tattoos, and you will find Solve Coagula. So, those are the same tattoos on Baphomet's arms.
Oh my God.
So when she's going all this, I'm against trans, I'm over here like, I really don't know, because that's already an androgynous guy's slogan you got on your wrist there. So, but here's the thing. Like I've been trying to explain to folks, this is the most plausible story, but it makes a lot of sense. And why do I come up with this stuff? It's because I have to look into the symbolism, see if it fits the narrative, and then I have to look in what the occult's currently still doing and see if that all fits together. So like I said, it's like a jigsaw, and you just kind of have to test around the pieces and see if it fits. And if it succinctly fits, you probably could go with it. And as I said to folks before, as we were just talking, I would have loved to have been in Hollywood because I love writing scripts. I love writing the metaphors and the story arcs and making things interconnect. I always think first how to start it. I then think how would I end this character or how would I make this all come together? And then I think about the middle. Because if I can't do that, then I'm going to make a very crappy ending for a series or a show or wherever. You have to have this intersect. So here we have something here. But the Lord said to him, not so. If anyone kills Cain, he will suffer vengeance 7 times over. Then the mark, put on the mark of Cain, so on, though no one will come and hurt him. Now, Rashi comments on Genesis 4:15 by saying that the mark was one of the Hebrew letters of the tetragrammaton. He engraved a letter of his, God's name, onto his head. Now, if Cain is upset because he gives his offering to God, God said it's not time for harvest, not this kind of harvest, it's time for blood. Why? Because celestial currency is dealt with life force, not vegetation. And I find this interesting between Christ and Cain. Christ is now saying it's time for the harvest. The laborers are few. Now it's time to start harvesting. During Cain and Abel's time, no, it's time for blood sacrifices until the perfect redeemers come. So again, you have to look, compare, contrast, compare, and you're just like, okay. So why that might have been part of the reason why God was upset, because he says, you're trying to jump the gun here. So then he gets upset with his brother. Oh, you think you're better than me? I gave the best that I had. So what does he do? He kills his brother. God says, I hear your brother's blood crying out from the... So this is one thing. No, God doesn't like the shedding of innocent blood, as it says in the Bible. But he also... There's a tracking device with your blood, because apparently God can still hear it calling out from the earth. That's something very significant. So he gives him a mark. Now, Cain, picture this. You're in incredible remorse. You're now being banished to not live with your family. Let's say you make a little trek and you go to this little place called Mount Hermon. And you have this little mark on your forehead. And you say, if there's any celestial beings up there that will give me intel with how to make war against heaven, I will give you my daughters to mate with. This would fulfill what we get in Genesis, 6:4? The sons of God came down and have affairs with the daughters of men. Very close to Genesis 4. It's just a little time going on there. I'm just saying. So you have this little mark, and now these guys come down. Now remember, this is why I always tell folk, we'll never know the mind of God, but we know his heart. Because we have all the Old Testament. That's a love story of hanging out with a really bad relationship. So eventually in Jeremiah 3:8, I've given you the bill of divorce, Israel. A lot of us are skipping over that. It's like, no, that offered the way for what Christ did, the ecclesia, new bride, new covenant. Hebrews 8:13. So breaking it down, these guys come down. They have affairs with the daughters of men. They create the Nephilim. Do they get what they... Does Cain get what he wants? No. But he starts creating a dynasty of people having a hatred against God and going to war against heaven. These angels, they don't know the mind of God. But they have a rough idea what's blueprinted, because we're part of the council. We don't know how it's going to be done, because what does it say? The angels would marvel. So they're over here going, well, we can give you a rough idea. He's going to send a savior figure, and he's going to have all these qualities. He's going to do some things. But we'll give you a Messiah figure. We'll help create something to fill in that gap. And this is where I tell folks, when you're hearing all this stuff of, well, that mythos guy sounds just like Jesus. How do you know they just didn't replicate it? This is what they were trying to do. They didn't know when he was going to show up. They know at the end he will, because that's what the demons were saying. Yes. What are you doing here now? You'll find out. We got to kill him. The fact that he's here, this is a problem, but he's in the form of a man, so maybe we could take him out. And this is where I'm laughing, because spiritually speaking, they're going, this is not part of the blueprints. We got to figure out some way to get rid of you. Because spiritual warfare mind-wise, this is big. He's not supposed to be here. And we've already created a quote unquote mythos to cancel out whenever he was supposed to show up. So what do we do here? I'm just throwing that out there because when folks are always going, well, that's not, yes, because this is where they get Nimrod's son. This is where Nimrod is creating the Messiah figure. And I'm going to explain as we keep going. But, anyways, what is the number 7 in ancient Hebrew? It's Sevua, and written in the 7th of Hebrew alphabet, Zayin or Zion, in ancient Hebrew as follows. And then I think it's even such similar character that Zayn or Z before as someone else's forehead rather than Cain. And you'll notice that it looks like the little Z zig on his head, World War Z.
Yeah.
Huh. Zombie to be possessed by. I'm wondering. You just made a bad deal, Cain, and this is where I'm kind of wondering if it might. Always pitching theories, never concrete. But is this part of the serpent seed aspect that we have to consider here? Squint at the Hebrew word zayin looks like an axe or similar armament, which explains the meaning of the name. In Hebrew, in the Bible, zayin means weapon. Hence, sages and Kabbalists see zayin as signifying power. It's 7th and it's shaped like a weapon. The letters petition God. So, and again, how one word letter came to both mean penis and weapon. I'm over here like, and again, like I just said, if you're serpent seed and it means a weapon against God, and we have all these phallic like symbols all over the world from Washington Monument to England to the Vatican, you kind of have to start, I wonder, and why,
True.
who has the greatest quote unquote spiritual incentive to do all of this? Cain.
Satan.
Well,
Oh,
Satan's
Cain.
like, you're so upset that you would lean over and say,
Yep.
what else you got? I know you talked to my mom. What else you got? Oh. And thus spiritual warfare continues for thousands and thousands of years. Now, something interesting is that there's no such thing as a Star of David, folks. And here's some verse references in Acts 7:43 by Stephen. He is condemning the Pharisees and saying, you have taken up the tabernacle of Molech, the star of your god Remphan, which you worship, and you will carry beyond Babylon. Amos 5:26, you took up the tabernacle of Moloch and the star of Remphan, the images of which of them you made for yourselves. This is what I'm always trying to explain to folks. When you're putting this on a fictional Jesus thing or saying pray for this particular thing, I'm like, you do not know what you do. Our God is not a God of symbols. He's a God of words, where it became flesh. As Christians, what are we supposed to do? Christian means to emulate the anointed one. We are set apart with the anointed one. Are we going to ever be perfect? No. But we are given the responsibility of being speakers, advocators, celestial ambassadors. While he's up in heaven preparing the way, us as bridesmaids are supposed to be going, he's coming back, lighting the way, the watchmen, lighting their torches, their oil, keeping the word alive. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet. This is what a lot of Christians are understanding because they've put so much emphasis still on an ethnically superior people or holy land. It's like, no, my kingdom is not of this world. And Galatians 3:28 and 29 cancel out the idea of a special ethnic people anymore. To not believe or to say that they're still a sacred race is to actually cancel out what Christ did. What do you mean? Read that verse. It says, there's neither Jew nor Greek, slave or free, bond or slave, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. And if you be of Abram's seed, then you are heirs according to the promise. So that cancels out. It's like, so we are the new, yes. So what does that mean? God's presence now indwells the saints. Those who choose the Father's Son get the gift. This is what we're supposed to do, is calling out what we get here. It's also in Revelation 2:9. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say that they are Jews, as in tree worshippers. Look up that word, Y-E-W-S. If Jesus' name didn't start with a J, it was Yeshua. Then I ask you, what was their word? And I've connected that in King of the U's episode. Folks want to look that in up. To come to worship before thy feet, and I will make them come to worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee. Why? Because you're going to notice right now in the world they're passing a lot of legislation that anti-Zism, is in the same category. An ideology is an ethnicity. If you don't agree, what does that mean? You are not part of Negan. Remember, we are one
Yeah.
body, one mind. We are Negan. So think of it in that terms. That's what an ideology does, and that becomes your first love. Is loving the things, materialism of this world. I'm going to be explaining more as that star means. As I said, Tammuz, aka Nimrod's son, saw himself as Lucifer in the flesh, his vessel. What do we get in Leviticus 16:8? Because we get the goat, and when the Freemasons have a little thing of riding the goat. And this split, that's a hail to the goat. And even though they're going to tell us it means something good, it's like, no, you see Obama do it, you see Trump do it. You'll see it as a gesture that you might see as the Vulcan sign from Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it means hail to the goat. And in Leviticus 16:8, this was the goat that they'd laid their hands upon, and then they sent it out into the wilderness. Then they would sacrifice a lamb to God for the people's sins. Why? Because you have to give him his little portion. And again, the goat separate the sheep from the goats, sheep from the goats. I'm going to be explaining a little bit more because it's not just solely Satan with this Baphomet guy. We have to understand that. I'm going to be explaining because when you understand this, you're going to understand more of the end times. Because I'm going to explain to you who the doppelganger is. But when you understand what the doppelganger represents, you're going to understand Antichrist. Because it's not going to be what we think about it, because we're going only by what our theologians are telling us from behind a pulpit. We're not going by what do they think, the occult. Because a lot of ministers are too scared to even touch into this because it's outside their field. They're just like, well, we got the rapture, so we don't really need to worry about that. So revelation is useless, and everything the occult does, we just turn a blind eye to. That's what you're telling me, because we got to prepaid, avoid everything, just put our head in the sand until he comes back. No. We're told to put on the armor of God. I kind of want to know what are we going up against so I don't fall victim to becoming deceived. But here we go. So go
I
ahead.
can. I was going to say you can see clearly with the photos that you've showing here that everyone's hands is specifically got that space between it, that Vulcan sign.
Yes.
I mean, it's not by accident. I mean,
No.
sometimes maybe you think, okay, you maybe wave kind of funny, but no,
Right.
these are not by accident. They're specifically doing
Too many
that
times.
sign.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is why I always
Wow.
tell folks is that, okay, maybe, like you said, once in a while, somebody
Yeah, it's an
like
accident.
I've seen somebody do this when he's talking in speeches, he's going
Yeah.
like this. And
Yeah.
you're making a point. I get it. But
Right.
then you see somebody doing it up to their eyeball. Then you see
Right.
somebody going like this, and you have to start
Right.
going, all right, what
Exactly.
else? And then you see they find out they go to a Marie Abramovich spirit cooking thing. Then you see
Yeah.
something else. And then you go, okay, it's not just a coincidence anymore. And this is why by their works you shall know them, their fruits. You'll start
Yeah.
seeing who you hang out with.
Yeah.
And again, as a mom, you would know this one. You can tell a lot by someone who their friends are.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You have to be always checking, like, okay, so who do you know?
Absolutely.
And yeah. And this is why I always tell folks, could be wrong, but we see Masons doing it here.
Wow.
So there's got to be something to them doing it. Again, Vulcan, Shin Shaddai, probably butchering it. Apologize if that's ever the case. Vulcan is Tubal-Cain, a password to the Master Freemason regular to the 3rd degree. Tubal-Cain, the son of Lamech, last patriarch of the cursed Cainite lineage, descendant of Ibius, Lucifer, angel of light, which means possession of the world. Now, again, according to the Trekkies, this is what they'll know it better by, but again, how do you do it? How do you bring magic onto the populace again without actually saying it's magic? You make it entertainment.
Yeah.
And then they start doing it. It's just rock on. Oh, it just means live long and prosper. So esoteric is the hidden. Exoteric is That's what we tell you. You believe us.
Yeah.
That's what you have to understand. And I'm trying to explain it to you, so don't come after me. I'm showing you that it connects with the Kabbalah. This is a book by Daniel Hale Feldman, The Mystical Heritage of the Children of Abraham, doing both those gestures right there. It is based on the Hebrew letter Shin. In essence, on the popular TV show, every time Spock gave the Shin Vulcan greeting hand sign, he is invoking Kabbalistic magic. Yeah.
Wow. Shin
So,
in Japanese means die. Number 4, it means die. Shin.
are you part Japanese?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is so cool. There's only like three countries I've ever wanted to go to. One's Japan, Australia, and I really want to go to Sweden at some point. But Japan,
I was born in Japan, so
so lucky. So wait, do you have technical citizenship there?
no,
Oh, okay.
my mom never continued it. I tried to go back and get it a few years back, but they still want me to have a what do you call those people? Like a sponsor
Oh, okay.
over there,
Gotcha.
which is ridiculous. I have my birth certificate and everything from Japan, and they're like, "Well, you're not registered, so I've been unregistered for like 25 or something years, so it's hard for me to go and get my citizenship back."
That's
So,
lame.
yeah, I know. Yeah.
I'm one of you, see? um, and I found that interesting because, like I just said, the two-ball cane, yeah, the Masonic two-ball cane, aka two-ball cane, as in the Bible, you can find this kind of lineage. Two-ball cane is the password given to the third degree of the Blue Lodge, the Master Mason. And the eight, as in the Ouroboros, that's a symbol of Tammuz. You'll find that over the magician's head. Excuse me, on the tarot cards as we continue. You will find that as the Meta logo. It's not a coincidence that Facebook already has a little bit of that Cain aspect with the F. And now Meta means death in Hebrew. Again, spell meta
Wow.
backwards, Atem, Adam. So I'm kind of like, is that kind of like the death of man in a really sick way? Just say it backwards. I'm like, could be wrong, but like you just said, in Japan it means this. So I have to wonder, is that a little bit of a Babel-esque moment where we're kind of going, after all this time, sometimes some things still have a little of a connotation that you have to go, I wonder. I wonder.
So I'm sorry. So this cane with the two balls, is that supposed to be like a penis, a phallus?
It's a
That's
very phallic
crazy.
religion.
Yeah, obviously.
But two, as in, two, Baal, Baal, and then Cain. So we kind of see a little bit of a, you could have been wrong, but that's kind of weird. And again,
That
a phallus
is.
thing. Who has an incentive to do something with the serpents? I'm just saying. And again, the Ouroboros is over the magician's head. I'm going to show you this connects to Nimrod's son. So you have this symbol affiliated with a doppelganger of Christ. There has to be something there. So in Genesis 4:22, in Zillah, she also bare Tubal-Cain, an instructor of everything artificer in brass and iron. Was it saying the last days? And Daniel, it's going to be an empire of iron and clay. I'll explain more, but I'm over here going, there has to be something there. Tubal-Cain was the 8th generation after Cain.
That's weird.
It's Is it coincidence? I don't know. But no, Dr. Shiva is the guy that invented email, but then he sold his rights. But this is the logo that they create afterwards.
Masonic.
Like an apron. And what does that always cover? The genital area. That's what folks don't seem to realize. Is like, yeah, that's a little bit of a nod to the Garden of Eden. Really creepy people, but this is how they work. And God's wonderful. Oh, anyway, I'll explain in a second when I get to the next one. This is the Google Chrome, and again, that's 666 or Shiva doing the three leg burst thing. Yeah. Yeah. Every time you get into Meta or Instagram, it's an all-seeing eye, an eyeball, third eye providence, or pineal gland. And the seal of Satan is Google Play.
I never saw that before. The seal of Satan.
Yes. And you'll know this is similar to Baphomet's forehead. If you put it up there, you'll find the little tuft area is the same thing as right here. But again,
It's actually a part of a star, it
yes,
looks like.
yes, very much so.
Wow.
And hold on, where do I have it? Back to the east. What I wrote right. I thought I had it
I
written.
never saw that Google Chrome sign. I never saw the 666. I've heard people say that, but I never saw it. Now I
Hmm.
do. Wow.
Well, sometimes I see these memes, and what I'm trying to do is instead of just seeing it, break it down for me. So
Yeah.
now when you see it online, you can start commenting stuff that I've mentioned, and then they can cross-reference in their Bible, and you become a more powerful believer and explainer, because this is what I want. I want the saints to be equipped so that when the Antichrist makes war against us, we are on fire, we have our intel, and we know what we're talking about. Why? Because we're supposed to be able to spit fire from our mouths. We make the word come alive, and we can condemn this boldly. That's what I would like to do. I'd like to see that with the ecclesia. I want to make sure you're brave. Something I find interesting is that we have in the Bible that I think I have this right. Their backs were facing the west. When you're reading Ezekiel chapter 8, the priests were turning their backs and they were worshiping the sun god of the east and stuff like that. In contrast, when you were leaving Eden, they were kicked out, and I think their backs to the east, something like that. I'm getting all goofed up. I had notes, but I can't find it now. But I found something interesting. What's this? Back is to the west, and you're facing to the east. Every time you hit play, are you playing into
Oh.
their ideology, being distracted or doing something you're not supposed to be? And I'm just finding it interesting. It's also a tipped pyramid. That one
Right?
has a little, yeah. So there's always a little something they're throwing out there. And again, Tri Hermes is the embracement of the three philosophies. Now, let's do our calendar for just a brief moment. 365 days out of the year. Why did we pick those particular numbers? Well, 3, Tri Hermes, that's his Nimrod's son. 6, be the Star of Remphan, 6 points, which is Nimrod. 5, pentagram, 3, 6, 5. Triangle, 6 points, pentagram. And
Wow.
365, 3 plus 6, 9, 6 and 5, 11, 9, 11. Election time, it's the ninth, November means 9. 11 is our 11th month, November, 9/11.
Wow.
Just like 9/11 was coronation day for kings and ancients. So you kind of start going, wait a minute, whoa, 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 hold up. And you start doing some stuff with the American flag, you'll find 9/11. It's in there. That's what I'm telling my buddy. You keep saying Syria. I'm telling you, the symbolism of Syria, it's here. So while Mystery Babylon is probably Catholic Church, who swings the sword for the second beast? I would be willing to venture it is America with the ideologies of the Whore of Babylon. That's what I'm trying to explain to folks is Christian nationalism could be easily weaponized and they think they're doing the good thing for God. In reality, God's like, I never sanctioned any of that.
I don't know you, right?
Hey, depart from me. Get out of here. No. And this again, Just Volt, Just Sol Invictus, Soldier, SOL, means sun god, Sol Invictus. And then you have DIER. That is an actual word. It means destined to die. You are destined to die for a sun god as a soldier.
Oh my God. That's
Yeah.
awful.
First 4 letters, SOLD, sold. So this is where I'm telling folks, I am more of a warrior than a soldier because a warrior protects your tribe. A warrior retaliates when attacked upon. A soldier does the dictation of legislation of your leader. A real leader is going to fight with you. So again, you kind of have to understand this stuff. That's why I said to folks, like I could, ideally, I'd like to go back to tribal. You respect the elders, you respect the women, and you preserve that within. And it might be controversial, but I'm just saying ideally, because when we rely on coinage, when we rely on government, we start forgetting our focus on God. So break this down for folks. I'm going to try my best because a lot of it I can't always break down for you. I have to kind of explain the symbolism. And you kind of can dig into this domino of deity telephone, is what I like to call it. Is you have Babel, so all the stories are the same. Everybody's like, oh, yeah, and then Babel goes, and they're just like, okay, and it gets a little flickery, and you have to kind of figure out stuff. And then you start studying per deity, and you start going, all right, Attis was castrated, and he also possibly died by a wild boar. That's just like this guy, Tammuz. Okay, interesting. This one is affiliated with a crown. He's also affiliated with the all-seeing eye. Well, weird, because this one is too. And that's what I'm always doing. I'm lifting up the anthropology dominoes and going, so this sounds like this one's going, and gradually as you disperse from Babel, the mythos is semi still there, but the the names and a little bit of some of the practices get a little changed. So as you go more towards the Middle East and India location of things, it gets into spiritualism, the chakra, the ascension aspects. You go further over here, it goes into the tree, the druids, and the aspect of worshiping the spirits within trees. So it ends up kind of migrating in little variations, but all going back to the same family, the Tower of Babel. Now, this book by Leo Lion Zagami just came out this year. I would probably give it a 3 out of 5 because he's over here saying everyone's trying to blame the Jays, and I'm over here like, read Bloody Zion before you read this book by Edward Hendry because Amazon banned it. They didn't ban his book. But I will give him this because he's trying to paint Islam in the highest light. And what I do like about it, he is citing some interesting things. But he was talking about the sin god. Remember that guy I was telling you about last time? I think I have slides just to cover as a brief review. But he was talking about this sin god, or Cybele. Remember Cybele? I said how
Yeah.
she has a very core origin as the mother of the gods, and kind of would be Semiramis for Nimrod's wife and stuff like that. She stems from Turkey. How interesting. Because this other guy was talking about how Sin, this moon god, Virgin Mary, is always sitting in a crescent moon. So hermaphrodite, man, woman, kind of getting the mythos bumbled up and stuff like that. So Mount Ararat happens here. Eventually, the descendants of Noah start migrating and coming down to the plains of Shinar. And they're like, right about here-ish is where they start building this Tower of Babel. Interesting enough, that's where Mithra, where we get the Mithra hat the Pope wears, Mithraism. This is where he had his base of operations, was at the River Euphrates. I find that very interesting because the River Euphrates dries up. Babel, portal of the gods, or gateway for the angels. And you're now trying to build this thing to go all the way up into heaven. Interesting. And where are these angels located? They're locked under this thing. So you're trying to do all your star magic with Remphan, pentagram, and contact these things like a giant Ouija board. I have seen Dr. John Dee in the 15 Elizabethan court era. He had like the Star of Remphan, pentagram, and then in the very center kind of looked like an eye. It's not really an eye, but kind of looks like it when you tilt it at an angle. I'm like, you're putting all that. It's like a Ouija board of Ouija boards. And I'm like, I would be surprised if that was like the floor with inside the Tower of Babel and they're doing all these ceremonies. I wouldn't be surprised because I'm over here like, you guys are kind of nuts. So they start migrating, and they were saying the sin god, which sin is the root word for Allah. So when they're saying like Allah, it's actually connecting to sin was the original word for this guy. In Greek over here, in our Christian meaning of such things, it means to miss the mark. So moon god, miss the mark. Ironic. So this Hermes Trismegistus, he writes the Emerald Tablets roughly in this region in Egypt. And this guy was talking how the migration of this god comes from Turkey all the way down into Egypt. I was like, well, you may not be pointing to Bible. This is very interesting that you are talking about geography-wise of the migration, because that fits in sync with the Babel mythos. Just something I'm throwing out there. And again, back in the day, they were a lot higher with their genetics, so they could have been able to run. I was doing something about Mount Hermon. Sometimes it's a day and a half from where Christ was with a lot of his stuff. Sometimes it was like 18 hours away. And I'm doing all this mathematics of like, very interesting. And that in Hebron, there's, sorry, Hebron has a connection with Hermes Trismegistus, and Hebron was where I think King David was anointed. So giants connecting with Hebron and Hermes Trismegistus. I was like, I don't know, but it's interesting that's all happening within the same location of things.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to pull this up, but folks wanted to pause briefly, pull up your Ezekiel chapter 8. You'll read this portion where they're talking about these sun priests turning their backs to the temple and they were worshiping the sun god. The logo that they're particularly doing in this depiction is part of the ritual of the greater ritual, the pentagram, which is where you put it up over your head. This means fire. And then air would be this, as in like firmament. And then water, when you see other celebrities doing this, that means coming, again, Leviathan, Malkut, I would personally say is, a rough translation what that means. And then you see this pose where they're going up and down. That's Statue of Liberty. That is Baphomet, as above, so below. That's the conjoining of the elements. That is ultimately paganism. That is Star of Remphan. Was basically saying, in your face, God, we are divine. We have the alchemy and element knowledge of how to do it ourselves. We can become our own gods and achieve our own immortality without you. This is what God's seeing, and they're doing all of this. And God's going, they think I don't see. That's what he's talking with Ezekiel. They're doing an abomination in my own temple because they think I can't see them doing this. And Ezekiel is roughly within, some of my pastors telling me, so blame him if I'm getting this wrong, was in a 15, 20-year span at the same time as Jeremiah. So when Jeremiah is lamenting all of this stuff, it's roughly all the same trajectory as our culture is falling apart. We are about to go to Babel. Well, that's fine. What? That's like where the highest schools are for all this stuff. And they're already doing a little bit of this mysticism. Again, magi, maga, star worship. There's all connection to this. So when by the time they go to Babel, they compose the Babylonian and this is where I would recommend watching the documentary by Ted Pike, The Other Israel. And
MAGA? Wait, I'm sorry. You said MAGA.
MAGA.
As in Make America Great Again.
Oh, yeah. I'm telling folks. So you want to hear some fun trivia? I'll show slides. I'll build up to it. I'm not just MAGA. So we have to understand something here. 12th day of Christmas was when the trees would come down. This would be an equivalent of January 6th. The Epiphany of John the Baptist, if you want to Google that or just do a Catholic whatever background search, it is alleged day that Christ was baptized by John the Baptist. Also, as an adolescent, was allegedly visited by the Magi. Root word for Magi? MAGA. And as I have a slide later on, Trump, his character in Back to the Future, which again, that's based off of Nimrod. What's the premise of the first movie? Is that his mom is attracted to him. Nimrod did his own mom, so the term mother probably stemmed from something of that nature. And I'm like, okay, so this is a little bit of a nod, but Biff Tannen, Hiram Biff, and Tannen means conifer tree, Christmas tree, pine cone tree. And this is based on Trump? Yes, and you can look that up again. All writers admit Biff Tannen was based on Donald Trump. And you're naming him that? Hiram Abiff is synonymous with Hermes, as I'm going to show in another slide. Interesting. And Hermes is an equivalent of Nimrod's son Tammuz. And then we have this January 6th thing. So again, there's a lot of stuff that I'm pulling up because I'm studying what the occult's doing, and I'm going, this is it. This guy is okay. I'm convinced. But everybody else is going, no, 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 you're wrong. I'm like, you have to understand, Antichrist doesn't necessarily mean he has to be evil incarnate as we know it. It literally could just mean a substitute, materialism of, I can show you some clips. It's a very materialistic, godlike thing they're creating with Trump. And again, I'll be showing in some slides. But yeah, MAGA means mage, wizard, or great illusionist. It is the highest priest position on the Church of Satan website. In Sanskrit, it is the high priest of the sun. And Trump now has one sun god relic up in his penthouse apartment. He has 3. Yeah. And it makes me kind of go, okay, I'd understand maybe as a collector's item, but then to emphasize that much, okay, dude, okay. But something I find interesting, because Tammuz, the magician, he's affiliated with coinage, Hermes. And I find that interesting because we on a dollar bill here. Like I said, money, mono, eye, one eye, materialism,
Never saw that
pyramid.
before.
Yeah. Pyramid, pi as in fire, pyromaniac. Ra, ray of the sun. Mid, in your midst. Fire of the sun in your midst. It's always a raging fire over the all-seeing eye. Tammuz, wow. Horus, Hermes, Mithra, all equivalents. That's where I tell folks, like, well, that one's not the same. It's like, symbolism-wise, let's look into it. Because everybody else can laugh at you because you're like, you don't know what you're talking about. I just did a show with 2 gentlemen, and at the very end, the guy told me, by the way, everything that you're talking about is absolutely correct. I was a 33-degree Mason. I was like, well, thanks, because I'm going to use that now as a little bit of I could have been wrong, but I just had confirmation from a guy that used to be 33, so there you go.
Ooh, you should talk to Sullivan. There's this guy. I will remind me. I will give you his information because he's a 30. I can't remember if he's 33 or 32 degree Mason. He does symbolism too in movies.
Yeah, and this is where folks are like, I'm laughing because I'm still getting questions sometimes, and they're over here, do you support the Masons? It sounds like you don't. And I'm like, no, I don't support them. Unequivocally don't support them. I'm related to a lot of them, but I don't support them. Why else would I do hours worth of exposing this stuff, I don't know. I laugh at sometimes when these questions come up. I'm over here like, yeah, nothing resonated. If I'm tracing it to Nimrod, what do you think? Ash Wednesday. It's the mark of Tammuz, when they put a little cross on his head. Fun fact, the symbol of Tammuz, one of them, is the cross. And they put Christ on a cross. And Christians are wearing a cross, the symbol he died on, that he conquered. Again, Christians, it's not about the symbolism. It's about your word, your lifestyle, your actions that prompt folks to go, the faith that is within you. It's so contrary to everything in this world. I want to know about that. You don't care about patriotism. You don't care about politics. You don't care about holidays? No. Why? My kingdom's not of this world. It's like my Savior. I'm looking forward to eternity. Okay, tell me more. That is what our Christianity is supposed to be, and folks are so consumed with the things of this world, they don't even realize it. But Christianity, I die to self daily. That is what Paul wrote, and I think that's something we should take to heart. Examine if we're in the faith, because a lot of our traditions and symbolism, I would question that. But Sunday services, again, the sun god, son of God worship, sun god worship. So Catholics, or if you have a Catholic background, this is who they're throwing up in there. The doppelganger, the guy you put in, and it's like, yeah, this is the one that's trying to slander Christ's name. This is the champion of the demons in the flesh. This is Lucifer's avatar, if you will. You know how they have us all creating our own little avatars online? Yeah, they're programming you. Um, but the early believers kept Saturday, or whatever equivalent would be in Hebrew, as opposed to Saturn Day, as the Sabbath until March 7th of 321 CE, when Constantine passed a law requiring believers to worship on Sunday, the day the pagans worshiped the sun god. Believers still kept Saturday as the Sabbath until the day after was passed 11 years later. This law, signed into decree by Constantine, forbid believers to worship on the Sabbath Saturday, and it was punishable by death by the Catholic Church. Many believers were burned to death by the Catholic Church for keeping the Sabbath. Why? Because when you look, you go back a little bit further than Constantine, you dig into Elagabalus, the first trainee emperor. Yeah, no shame, folks, if you're watching from that perspective. But he was the guy that they kind of celebrate to this day. But Elagabalus, you can trace his etymology to going back to Baal. Baal, it has a connection with that, with the etymology. And the ceremonies that he would do is, again, like we just did with Blackrock, he would drag the cart, and it was a very similar ceremony that you found in the temple worship for Tammuz. So Baal would connect with this. And this is what the Catholic Church is promoting. And they killed people. Because sun god over son of God, you only want the one. And again, what does the whore of Babylon do? It slays the saints in the last days. Why? Because something with our etymology, with Noahide laws, if you don't agree in just one God, the God that we determine is God definition, and you also believe in the Son, then you're at enmity with the world's definition of God. And then in the Talmudic rabbis, what they're starting to say is that, or they have been saying, is that for 1 hour a day, they tutor God. And you can read some of these quotes and cited by the author Edward Hendry in Solving the Mystery of Babylon the Great. And he's citing stuff where they say that they're tutoring God. This is who you're supporting when you're putting up that star. And again, halos. I did another episode, The Origins of Crowns, Wreaths, and Halos. But crowns, coronas at the top of the Hermetic Kabbalah tree life. And I'll be showing. Yeah. And what are crowns are affiliated with Tammuz, honestly. And what do the crowns always do? They go outward, right? Because sun god, my crowning achievement, I'm the ruler. And you have the sun emperor, like we were just saying with Japan. All of this comes back to something that you can achieve to become like a sun god, like Nimrod and his son. I'm getting an ant invasion here. So, sorry, I'm just killing something on the side. Don't mind me. I'm just violently killing things. But again, this is where the halo comes from. They bring that in from Egypt with Horus. So now Horus is like Jesus, and this one's like this. And they're constantly butchering it by throwing in more symbolism of what we want you to interpret God as, or his son. Sick, but you have to understand where we're supposed to be set apart here. The Catholic sign off of the cross, the worship of the sun. In the name of the noonday, sun, Ra, so when you're going up, the night, and of the midnight, son of Osiris, so when the sun set, sunrise, sunset. You ever watch that in the Fiddler on the Roof? And of the
No.
rising of the sun of Horus, and the setting of the sun of Amun, or Amun, where we say amen. Now, historically, the cross is symbolic with the Sumerian sun god Tammuz. The cross also represents the solstices and equinoxes in the four main positions of the sun. In Egypt, the god Ra, aka Nimrod, symbolized the powerful midday sun. Osiris was the god of the dark sun. Horus, Tammuz, was the god of the rising sun. And Set was the god of the setting sun. When the pagan sun worshipper, the Emperor Constantine, saw the sign of the cross, it was about the sun Thus, when Catholics do the sign of the cross gesture, it goes back to the ancient sun god worship.
Never knew that. Wow.
Look at it in slow motion here. You don't have to hear it. Just watch this.
Whoa.
And I'm laughing because that's the symbol
Wow.
over Baphomet's head. And that's equivalent, again,
Wow.
of Nimrod's son. Tammuz, you can Google it, is also equivalent of the Sumerian goat shepherd god. Goat shepherd god. Interesting.
And I recommend anyone who's listening to this, they really need to go on YouTube or somewhere so they can watch this. Spotify, I will have this up on Spotify as well, so you can see the videos that.
You can send me a copy. I'll try to get it out as a couple areas too.
Yeah.
But again, sigil of Astaroth. Huh? What's that? That is the pentagram. What? Yeah, so remember Astaroth and Baal? So if there's a sigil of Astaroth, and these people, as we just clearly saw, are doing the sign of the pentagram over their chest.
Wow.
Well, it's a celebrate, it's okay, hold up. Queen of the Heavens? Yeah, that's the Virgin Mary. It's also the name for Astaroth in the Bible. Jeremiah, that. I know you guys sometimes have a hard time picking up your Bibles, but pick it up. That is a phrase used to the goddess Astaroth. Astrology. Astronaut, like I just said. So again, if they have a star, again, where is that star located? On the pineal gland. Was, again, Solvay was 9/11. That was bringing the Antichrist into coronation. Coagula, blood clot. So what's the last act as Antichrist? Is putting a great deception, illusion, pentagram, over the hearts and minds of men.
Would that be the mark of the beast, maybe?
It could even be the cross, honestly. Think of it like you got Cash App?
No.
Okay, so some credit card companies are starting to allow you to customize your card, and you could put stars, you could put numbers, you could put socks, you could put like a jersey, all these customization aspects of things. So again, if Antichrist is substitute or in place of, and it has materialism all infused with it, because what does he say, the rich man? Can you get rid of your riches? No. And it's easier for a rich man or a camel to go for the eye they need. People have to always weigh that in mind, because you're over here saying, well, the materialism, can you get rid of that to be the perfect follower for me? And a lot of folks couldn't be able to drop it in the drop of a hat.
No.
That's again, test of faith. Would you be willing to do that if the moment so called for it? And a lot of folks can't do that because materialism is everything. And especially in our day and age and culture, they're making us work so much so that we could just get food on the table. I get it, folks. I do. But that's where they're trying to get people like myself. They want me to go back to work because right now I'm like, you still owe me an IRS check of $1,500. Still haven't sent it. I did it in January. It's like, come on, folks. Yeah.
Really?
I threw everything into this, savings and 401k, and now they're trying to like cut off all assets so I can't produce this stuff because I'm over here like I'm trying to feed people because they're not getting it from a pulpit, and I'm like, guys, this is what's grieving my heart, is that we're this close and people are hungry or they need clarity. So spiritual warfare is real, my dear friends. But anyways, the talisman of Saturn. You look on one side, it's the pentagram, sigil of Mommy, Semiramis, or Astaroth, as she was later deified. Probably would connect to Cybele, because Cybele's an equivalent, mother of the gods, and all that sort of thing. And the six-pointed star of Remphan. And yes, this connects with the synagogue of Satan. Now, as Yasser Arafat will tell you in his September 1988 Playboy interview of the magazine, he says, do you know what the star or what the Israeli flag means? 2 blue stripes represent the river Euphrates and the Nile River. Isn't that interesting? What I showed you on the map before?
Yeah.
It's where the empire of Nimrod. So it's God's chosen people. Let's fight for their land. and create greater Israel and the New World Order capital, where the first prime minister of that particular country said that's where they want their New World Order capital. That's what that star represents in between the two rivers. How ironic. And it was Rothschilds that designed this thing. And they claim to be descendants of Nimrod. So, you're over here going, hey, for that, fight for them, fight for them. And I'm over here like, if you can't be God, then weaponize his own people. That is what Catholicism has done. And the ideologies and patriotism is the same thing. We're going to pick up the sword and go over there and do it in God's name, just full, Sol Invictus, soldier, like I said before. And you're doing it for an earthly empire that they're wanting to establish, and you're using the ecclesia, sleeping bridesmaids, to do it. Isn't that terrifying? And you don't even realize while you're doing it, you're just told, Holy Land, fight for them. Da, da, da. This is why I tell folks, a dispensationalist or dispensationalism, that it's always sacred, it's always this, da, da, da. If you're still stuck in that mindset, that is basically Zism for Gentiles. Because you're still saying everything that God did, or Christ did on the cross, is no good. Hebrews 8:13 is that he makes the old covenant wear away. New covenant is now communion. You choose the Father's Son. Have I explained that one to you?
No.
In ancient Israel, that dad would select a young man from a neighboring town, the village, make sure he had a good reputation, he had money, he could provide for his daughter, he could carry on the baton of her well-being. So he'd bring the young man over, pour him a glass of wine. Do you accept these terms of the contract I'm offering you? Yes. Drink of it. And he'd take the rest of that cup and hand it over to the daughter. So don't give me the patriarchy. This was a choice. And she could say, exactly what I was looking for. Can we go back to the drawing board? Okay. It'd be respected. They'd go back. It was the honorable time and decision right then and there. But if the bride chose to drink of this cup, that means she was accepting of the marriage contract. She was approving of her father's selection of a son-in-law. Wow. And what did the young man do after this was done? He would go back to his father's house to induct in the new bride by adding on to the family house. What did Christ say? I go to prepare a place for you up in my Father's house. So yes, the ecclesia is the new Israel. We are now indwelled with the presence of God because of the temple veil being ripped in two. And you, now it's an individual basis. It's not a special people anymore. You are choosing the Father's Son, the selection given to you to be part of this ecclesia, this marriage. Wow. Yeah. So don't tell me you're fighting for... No, you are a Z because you're still thinking Old Testament. It's sacred. No. No. You have to understand your beautiful gift, ecclesia. Don't fall for the lie, because that's exactly what ancient Israel used to do. They're going back. Star of Remphan. You see it in Catholic Church. You see it in Islam. You see it the Pope wearing on his hat, and this is the Church of Satan. This is over in Egypt with some Saturn, whatchamacallit, whatever. It's all over. It's in India. How do you unite all the world religions? Because it's already subtly in all the religions anyway. So, from Gary and Genesis 6 conspiracy, I don't ever want him to think I'm plagiarizing for a second. No, I'm trying to use this as in I'm endorsing his work, pick up his book, Genesis 6 conspiracy, throwing that out there. But to give a little bit of something that he wrote here, the only thing I veer on with like Heiser is that he still believes in triune, and he also never bashed Christmas trees. I'm in stark contrast, because I understand what it means because I studied the occult. With Gary, he didn't connect something here with Hermes. And I have, because I'm studying the symbolism and I'm putting together a timeline. I'm like, this makes a lot of sense, because this is what he writes in chapter 30 of his book. How then did Nimrod receive all the secret sciences and the Enochian religion from the antediluvian world? How did Nimrod utilize the knowledge of the corrupted seven sciences and the vile pantheistic religions from the antediluvian world? Hermes, equivalent of Tammuz, of course, discovered and translated the degenerate data from Enoch's hieroglyphics, which were etched into the Twin Towers. It's like, did he catch what he wrote there? Constructed by Lamech's children, and that's in the line of Tubal-Cain. All the reprehensible evils Noah witnessed before the flood then came back to haunt Noah in his later years. The twin evils of the spurious knowledge of the Nephilim both fell into the hands of the tyrant of Shinar and the detriment of the post-Diluvian society. The impact of the forbidden knowledge did not remain inert. Nimrod reactivated the corrupt knowledge with all of his heart and his soul. This is why Genesis 10 recorded that anything that humankind could conceive was then obtainable. Even though the people of Shinar did not possess the heavenly wisdom to apply this spurious knowledge for the only good of humankind, the seven spurious sciences are purportedly so powerful that anything is possible through their application. To this end, craft legends recorded that Nimrod was a Mason who loved the spurious sciences. Nimrod was captivated with aggression stemming from his newly found power. He is celebrated as a great Mason. What were the Twin Towers known as? The World Trade Centers. The Caduceus staff carried by Hermes. Hermes is known as a god of trade. And two towers coming down. And when they were constructed by the Solomon brothers. And you have the two pillars of Freemasonry. And I'm kind of going, hold up here. There's something more than just this. So you have two emerald tablets here. And they've somehow equated that these things are sacred. So now you have these two towers that were built and mirrored after this ideology. And then you have the third building that's falling. I'm going to show you some symbolism as we keep going. But this is very sacred to the occult of why this ritual had to occur. Freemasonry has 33 degrees because they worship the fallen watcher's alchemy knowledge that Nimrod's son, Tammuz, or the Hermes, translated here. Mount Hermon coordinates is on the 33-degree parallel, just like the 33 points of our spine. Mount Hermon in Hebrew means forbidden or cursed. Hermes derives his name from Mount Hermon. The emerald tablets were translated from the events that transpired here. So it happened, and then he comes back and he basically resurrects it post-Diluvian. Why? Because somehow they built technology enough to withstand the flood that when whoever comes back this way, they'll be able to preserve it all. Maybe the pyramids had something to do with it. I don't know, but sometimes I scratch my head. I don't always take the evolutionary aspect of things, but I think these people were a lot smarter than we gave them credit for. And there's a war going on constantly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then Bel Hermon, ring a bell every hour upon the hour. Now, I was doing a little bit of an etymology search, and they're going, hour does not connect with Horus. It probably comes from the Latin, and then it was from the northern tribes that they came up with such and so. But it probably connected with the seasons and the equinox. And I was like, equinox. Okay, so yes, that does connect with sun god worship. Again, hours would connect with that. Hour, Horus. So I'm over here going, yeah, I'll take you with a grain of salt. Because ring a bell every hour upon the hour, say Tammuz, the guy you mark for Ash Wednesday. They build steeples that look like phalluses on top of our churches. And you ring it every hour upon the hour. Oh, come on. That's far-fetched. Is it?
Yeah.
Look at your clock for a moment.
Mm.
Let's go around. 6 from 12. 6. 1 from 7. Sorry, 1 from, was it 1? Minus, what would be the equivalent of that? 7? Yeah, 1 from 7 is 6. 2 from 8, 6. 3 from 9, 6. It's 6, 6, 6. Every time you go around your clock. Don't think that's a coincidence.
I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, and I'm like, you're just ringing it every hour upon the hour. Why? Because you're always thinking of Sunday worship, ringing the bell for your God. Every time you hear it. Time. The pentagram is affiliated with time travel.
That's weird.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I could be wrong, but I always throw it out there of. So, I'd be fun if they tried to get me, because I'd be over here going, oh, I know what that means. Uh, the Smardenia tablet, a cornerstone of the tenets of alchemy. Smardenia tablet, also known as the Emerald Tablet or the Secrets of Hermes, is an ancient text said to contain the teachings of Hermes Trismegistus, Christ pagan doppelganger, the founder of all things alchemical. The legend goes that Alexander the Great found the tablet in the tomb of Hermes. Inscribed on it, the Phoenician characters, Phoenicians would connect to Philistines, were the instructions for making gold. The tomb is reputed to have been near Hebron, which is where David was anointed. And the earliest translations of this mysterious recipe are in Arabic. The use of the emerald lends further exotism to the story. However, the time any green-colored stone was referred to as the emerald, and it is likely this Mardinian tablet was made of green jasper, a very similar shade and color to the Statue of Liberty, I might add. And atop of the Israeli Supreme Court, they have the all-seeing eye that looks just like the back of our dollar bill. Yeah. And it's a pyramid of the same similar colors. So, fun fact, Ireland, known as the Emerald Isles, and it's alleged, I have to confirm it, but I was hearing some guy saying that at the beach where like they had like the white stone, it's written that we are the descendants of such and so, and we left during Joshua's conquest. Some of the tribes were running away, and they went all the way up to freaking Ireland to get away from him. And they named Joshua, and they said like, but the son of Nun, and blah blah blah. And I'm over here going, emerald tablets. You have these figures running away in refuge, and what were giants known for? Having red ginger hair.
Yep.
Is this
Hazel eyes.
is this possibly where the don't be a ginger because I steal your souls has any connection with?
I don't know.
I'm just saying because it's kind of like where are Irish people known for is red hair and they're I don't. It's got to be some sort of mythos connection there. I'm just throwing it out there because you
I
know
think
how.
I think Gary said something about that. There are some kind of connection somewheres there.
And again,
yeah.
you piece together here a little this, here a little that, and you're just like, just plausible. It's plausible. Not that I have anything against redheads. Just throwing that out there.
No, of course not.
The mythos or the superstition aspect of things got to have to stem from something. The emerald lends further to the color green, blah, 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 green jasper. Whatever its material construction, the instructions on it have attracted the consideration of many illustrious characters over the years, including Roger Bacon, Alberto Magnus, Aleister Crowley, of course, and C.G. Jung. Alchemy is full of hidden secrets and relies heavily on symbols, wordplay, and double meanings or doublespeak to hide its mysteries from all but the most perspective and adept of interpreters. The words on the emerald tablets are no exception. These are several translations. Isaac Newton, who, by the way, when he died, they found a whole bunch of lead in his body because apparently he was trying to consume lead because he thought he could convert himself into like this immortal like figure. Yeah, because alchemy. I was like, so not the sharpest guy in the his hair follicles apparently still has a lot in it from what they were. I was watching this thing. Provided the following interpretation that among his papers after his death in 1727. So basically, think of this as the occult's like I don't know 10 commandments or whatever. 'Tis true without lying, certain and most true. 1. That which is below is like that which is above, conjoining as above, so below. And that which is above is like that which is below to determine the miracles of one only thing. 2. And as all things have been and arose from one by the meditation of one, so all things have their birth from this one thing by adaptation. 3. The sun is father, Nimrod, the moon is mother, Semiramis. 4. The wind hath carried in its belly, in its earth, its nurse. 5. The father of all perfection in the whole world is here. Your God, Tammuz? I'm just saying, his words. 6. Its force and power is the entire of it converted into the earth. 7, separate the earth from the fire. Again, what do we get? The ritual of the pentagram. Doing this, doing that, across sweetly with great industry. But you're understanding a little bit now their practices and why the occult's always doing these gestures. It ascends from the earth to heaven again. It descends to the earth and receives its force of things superior and inferior. 9, by this you shall have the glory of the whole world, and thereby all obscurity shall fly from you. Basically, he's teaching a very God consciousness approach. So when you're doing this God consciousness, you're actually leaning into Emerald Tablet's teaching, which is the doppelganger, the liar. By this means you shall have the glory of the whole world, and thereby all obscurity shall fly from you. 10, its force is above all force, for it vanquishes away every subtle thing and penetrates every solid thing. 11, so was the world created. 12, from this are and do admirably adaptations, whereof the means or process is here in this. 13, hence I, called Hermes Trismegistus, having the 3 parts of the philosophy of the whole world. 3 parts, tink, tink, tink. 14, that which I have said of the operation of the sun is accomplished and ended. Again, affiliating himself with sun god worship. So, come on, Brandon, where are you coming up with this you-ism? And again, I'm trying to give folks new words to say, because if Christ's name was really Yeshua, let's stop using the J word. Let's start using the U, conifer tree. And how do I come to this conclusion? Well, same book as I just read before. Highly recommend for Christians who are kind of novice in this field. It's a great resource. Somebody found it for like, I don't know, $5-12 on Abe Books. The Element Encyclopedia of Secret Signs and Symbols. I'm loving it. I found another aspect that Odin, remember when he sacrificed his eye for wisdom?
Oh, yeah.
He is affiliated with yew trees. I was like, well, isn't that interesting? Because we have, the all-seeing eye, wisdom, and it's connecting.
Wow.
So we see a little bit of a migration.
You're right.
Sometimes it's Hermes, sometimes it's this, sometimes it's Odin, sometimes. And as cultures are migrating and you have different surroundings, you have to adapt it. And then you start merging with the hanging from a tree for 3 days, like they had with Odin with some of his mythos. They got that when Christians were going over. They're like, well, Odin could do that too. But they're, they adapt as they hear other stories because they want to make their god just as palatable. A lot of the early Vikings, they would wear these crosses, but they would look semi between Thor's hammer and semi across. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, oh, it's this one. No, it's this one. No, it's this one. And so you could kind of be a crypto Christian or a half Christian, Diet Coke Christian, if you will, within the Scandinavian lore. Christmas tree. The old pagan custom of bringing a living tree indoors in the middle of the dark months of the year and decorating it with candles and trinkets was introduced to Britain by Prince Albert, the husband of Queen Victoria. The idea rapidly caught on, bringing evergreen vegetation in the form of trees, boughs, and branches from the outside to the inside was a magical ritual. A piece of sympathetic magic, meant to encourage the return of spring in the growing season. The timing and the entrance and exit of the tree was critical. Any time before Christmas Eve was too soon for the tree to come inside. All decorations had to be taken down and removed by the 12th night, January 6th. Now, if you're watching the show The Boys, they have an episode where they're prepping that there's going to be a rally at January 6th. And considering the show is an analog, they said Homelander's character is an analog of Trump. And I'm like, and now you're creating something to January 6th with this show. And and as I just explained, the significance of January 6th. This tradition, however, does not seem to signify for the department stores who start to display artificial Christmas trees from September onwards. The Christmas tree is traditionally an evergreen tree, usually a spruce or a fir, which is cut down from the forest. The tree itself symbolizes immortality, everlasting life. So, do you love Christ or do you love your Christmas tree? Because this is what it symbolizes in the occult. Well, I don't do it for those reasons. Abstain from all appearances of evil. Otherwise, you look just like the world. Where if we look against the world and we're not part of it, we're not partakers, then suddenly we start making people, I got to get rid of my idols too. This is what prompted Mars Hill, folks, is they're like, no, Paul, what's this philosophy all about, man? Because people are leaving the temples and like idol makers are going broke, and it's really converting the empire here. Like it's non-violent. What's this philosophy? It's not a philosophy. It's a faith. What? Let me tell you a little bit more about it. This is what prompts it, folks, is your actions is changing an empire, not by politics, not through anything else, but your own decisions and lifestyle starts to influence others to ask of what's in within you. What is that about? So, the Christmas tree is traditionally evergreen, as I said, and everlasting life. The lights draped on it are a reminder that the darkest time of the year and lighter days are just around the corner. The Yule celebration in Northern Europe was echoed. Similar rituals in Southern Europe. The Roman god Attis, or Attis, was a savior god whose life story very much parallels that of Christ. Attis, another equivalent of Tammuz, was born on December 25th to a virgin mother and was sacrificed to save mankind, killed beneath a conifer. When I looked this one up, I was like a pine tree, pine cone tree. Pine cones used to be given out before hearts. Yeah, for
Never heard of that.
Valentine's, because my heart and soul.
Oh,
And when they were like this, is like, okay, that's the seed. And they go out, that's reborn, regenerated. You achieved your highest self. That's what it symbolizes. Yeah. So, little interesting thing to note. And I have one behind me, and I was over here for, just to show folks, this is what it means to them. Pineal gland, pine soul as in sun god, and a pine. Guys,
forever soul.
yes, it's everywhere in our culture. Virgin Mother, and killed beneath a conifer, remaining for 3 days and nights in his tomb before resurrection. His priests, called the Dendrophyri, or the tree bearers, were charged with selecting a conifer from a sacred grove that would be brought indoors in the memory of the death and resurrection of Attis, who is also linked with Apollo, the sun god. Attis is equivalent of Helios as well, where we get the globe Earth heliocentrism. It's equivalent of the Statue of Liberty. This is who you're worshiping on December 25th, the doppelganger. This I find very interesting because a lot of Christians are saying, well, we don't do it for those reasons, or I'm doing it. And I'm like, sorry, I'm not against presents. Don't get me wrong. I am against the idea of bringing that into because I know what it means. And if you now know, I'm sorry if you got this far, because it's now going to be accounted unto you. To him that knows it is a sin. So I apologize. It tuned off before. But another mythos, and I think this was True Riches Radio that compiled this article online that you guys can read. But I've had it for years, this little segment I took. For his presence, empowered to reign supreme, the phallic symbols and fire should be lit to honor him. The supposed child of this union, Horus, Attis, whatever equivalent variant as its migration, Tammuz, was the reincarnated Nimrod. Semiramis, the wife-mother of Nimrod, claimed a full-grown evergreen tree sprang out of the roots of a dead tree stump. This symbolized the springing forth of a new life for Nimrod on the anniversary of Nimrod's birth. It could be Tammuz, Nimrod, because it's reincarnation. You always have to add that in there. She said that Nimrod would visit the evergreen tree and leave gifts under it. This is the genesis of the Christmas tree, the symbol of Nimrod. This equates approximately 9 months after Easter, the date Ishtar became pregnant with Tammuz.
Wow.
So when you're bringing that in, do you realize everlasting life, immortality? That's what Kabbalah is. Kabbalah tree. They put Christ upon a tree. They put a spiked crown, not outward. It was inward, because they're saying you're an imposter. You're not our reincarnated Trismegistus dude. You are a liar. In contrast of regeneration, reincarnation, what does Christ do? Resurrection. You saw me before in the flesh. You see the scars? It's still me. Thus, he has proven them frauds. And the Pharisees are going, no, we put them to death. What are you talking about? Hermes was affiliated with the god of healing. That's what the Caduceus staff, the medical symbol. And you put him all wrapped up, all spraggled up. on a cross. What's the top of the little caduceus? The wings. And you have Christ spread out with wings like that. It's a mockery ritual that you're not our Hermes. Yeah, and the symbol of Tammuz is the cross. And now you're bringing Tammuz symbol again, or Nimrod, his tree, into your homes?
Are you the only one in your family that don't celebrate, or I shouldn't say celebrate, don't have the Christmas tree maybe?
We used to all not do it, and now I'm seeing all my brothers doing it because there's my sister-in-laws and whatnot. And I'm over here like, well, that's what one thing I was saying. Like my dad, we canceled it when I was like 4 or 6. I was just adopted, and we just canceled it. Which I've never had any hurt feelings. Never, because we were very secluded as it was. We never went out to visit anybody. So, and when we did, it was just kind of like it's part of the man. But in contrast, I don't want to be just this stuck-up person that just says, "I like pagan." No, we just don't give an explanation. I want an explanation because if you're going to implement standards as a man, as I take this very seriously, we have to implement standards. We have to actually say, honey, let's have a sit down chat. If this is what that means, and I'm showing you here, then how can I say that we love God if I'm still doing this practice?
Yeah.
This, Jeremiah 10:1-5, that we just, come on. No, it does have relevance because it also mentions star worship within that 10:1-5.
Mm.
And in 10:2, be not like the pagans and or heathens, varying on translation, who look to the stars and are in awe and wonder of them. Star worship, astrology, Astaroth. We already know the pentagram connects to the sigil of Astaroth. We know that Remphan connects to this. This is what they're constantly condemning the prophets to Stephen the martyr. And what do they say here? Selecting a conifer from a sacred grove. Groves unto Astaroth and Baal. There, folks. Why did they have groves unto Astaroth and Baal? This is Druidism. As they start migrating, they're still keeping that because the Mediterranean's no longer accepting us. So let's keep migrating further and further north. This is Druidism. So when you're bashing Hollywood and yet you do this on December 25th, I have to ask you, are you no better than them? Well, I don't do it for those reasons. You're supposed to be set apart. That's what. And again, Ra eventually merged with Horus, and we got Ra Horathiki, the morning sun. So again, Horus and Nimrod eventually merged as to one deity. So yes, the whole Nimrod there's connections there. I don't have to read all of that, but just enough to go. The pentagram here goes back up to about 4,000 years ago. There's a little book you can pick up. I forget the author's name, so I apologize. Do remember the title. 4,000 Years of Christmas. It's about this big of a book, maybe 80 pages tops, but it gives you a little bit of fill-in-the-blank stuff of the tradition of Christmas, the candle nights within February that would follow on the heels of January 6th and stuff like that. I would recommend it if you want a little cubby. But for me, I find it interesting because when you cut an apple in half, according to what this book is talking about, it is the pentagram. So when we get the forbidden fruit, it has a little bit of a connection there. And I was kind of like, well, that's some interesting things right there. And we notice that the pentagram is outlined within our capital. All the major monuments all are connected on the 5 points. And then we get Baphomet's head in the center, if we wanted to place that right in there.
Yep.
So kind of have to make a question here, because if Hermes, Tammuz, I'm trying to do my best to always interconnect things. If that is an equivalent of their god, their messiah figure, and we have this in our capital, and the chin is pointing, again, the voice, the mouth, to the White House, you have to wonder, does that have anything to do with an Antichrist figure? I think that's something just to weigh in there. Is Mystery Babylon the Great? Because America happens to have a lot of imagery that connects to Babel. Now, granted, the ideology, what do you always see with the Catholic Church, with the fictional Jesus that they give us in the Mother Mary? Is that, you remember, when she's always sucking at the teat, or the baby Jesus and stuff?
Yeah.
That Isis and Horus. That is Semiramis and Tammuz. You keep going with statues I've shown before in my Instagram. So what is Tammuz always doing, aka Christ pagan doppelganger? He sucks at the teat of the whore of Babylon. Doesn't mean he has to be but he's sucking off of the nurturing or the nutrients, call it whatever you will, and letting that be fed. And that's what America's doing, is gradually coming back to the run true church. Yeah, the counterfeit, to be more precise. And Trump, fun fact, happens to be in charge in the exchequer of the World Bank, but also the Vatican Bank.
What's that mean?
He is the top guy in charge of all the international banks and the Vatican. Yeah, Gerald Posner, Geraldposner, God's Bankers. I think he did a segment on Bloomberg TV I've shared before, that he has, there's like this thick of a book, folks. He's done his due diligence. But yeah, Trump is in charge of the exchequer, and he had a papal bull sanctioned to talk to the Pope directly about getting this orchestrated. He's already stated that he wants Elon Musk to be his advisor on Bitcoin. He wants to be a Bitcoin-like president. So if you crash the international economy, everybody goes panicked. We don't have any money, but we've already programmed us with stimulus, right? Stimulus checks. I never even heard of that. I had to Google it. Oh, what's a stimulus check? So if they've already programmed that into us, and you're going to say, don't worry, we're going to replace everything. Unfortunately, the value of the dollar doesn't really count. But Elon has been so nice. He's going to donate money and make sure everybody gets back what they had. It's going to be digital, though. Like credits, if you will. Oh, okay. On top of that, if you want to turn in anybody that's causing a problem, feel free, and we might give you their money in possession. And because it's digital, then you just move around a fictional amount of money and currency, and people are betraying each other because materialism is trumping family, loyalty, and love of God. I'm just saying, I could see something like that formulate, because Musk, I have that clip, not here today, but he was talking to somebody around the table. He's like, so buys out Twitter and converts it into like WeChat, which is a Chinese app. He's like, yeah, exactly. WeChat, you can't buy or sell or enter a store without that thing on your phone. And I'm like, it's an X, Starlink, what I say before? Star worshippers, star angels. So Neuralink, connecting your brain, the pentagram, to these, I don't know. But I'm seeing a trajectory that one could be Antichrist, the other one's the false prophet. And then, signs and wonders of heaven. Well, that certainly sounds like his space thing. And then who signs Space Force into the thing? Yeah,
Trump.
And also 5G. And they want 6G by 2030.
2023?
2030.
Oh, 2030. Okay.
Again, 2 plus 0 plus 3. Plus 0 plus 3 plus 0. 5. Pentagram. Number of man, which is what the pentagram, I kept on reading. But again, 5 points. Don't know, but something's got to be there for that many coincidences. If he gets in 25, add to that 7 years. Via 13-month calendar, I would recommend, because that was the original calendar, and we have to add that into a timetable. And if the two witnesses is scripture and real Christians, as opposed to these old men with beards and stuff like that, everybody's going to be like, well, where are they? They're not here yet. So obviously the Antichrist can't be here yet. It's like, we're telling you right now. We are showing you every day that it's on your freaking logos. It's on this. It's on that. And you're just going, oh, stop being a conspiracy theorist. We're telling you the Ark is getting, again, Ark of the Covenant, Noah's Ark. We're telling you the Ark is getting ready to close. The ecclesia, the door is about to close to who can have access to the Holy Spirit. When we're gone or they execute all the saints, because remember their bodies are left in the street for 3 days, it replicates exactly with Christ's life. 3.5 years we minister, for 3.5 years, blah, blah, blah. Then they execute all of us. And then, caught up, resurrection, or is it? We rise up with him into the air, just like his ascension. Then everything hits the fan, and everybody's going to be like, oh, shoot. Because the light of the ecclesia is shining no more within you. And that would parallel within Revelation 18:23. And then it says, thy rich men were the merchants and the great men of the earth, and by their pharmakia were the nations deceived. It all started somewhere, so I kind of wonder, Pharmakia can connect to sorcery, but Isis is an alchemist, so aka connecting with Hermes, so Semiramis, witch, pentagram, whatever you want to call her, Isis, or Cece, if you want to spell it backwards. And her nickname is Queen of the Heavens, just like Cybele, just like Ishtar, just like Astaroth, and that is the same name as the Catholics Mary, Queen of the Heavens, 11th and 13th century. So you're already seeing a little bit of how this stuff connects. The Vates, Druids and Vates, the bards represented the three classes of the Celtic priesthood. According to the ancient Greek writers, Druids played an important role in the Celtic society, dealing with magic, religious rites, and worship. Magic. Did you know that Billy Graham has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame?
No.
Oh, yeah, he was big time controlled, and Trump just endorsed him recently. He's like, oh, I was at the Yankee Stadium. Such a great preacher, wasn't he? And I'm over here like, yeah, no. Because he would tell Catholics, no, you're already good, go away. Or you tell Muslims, no, you're good, go away. So you're telling me some good stuff. Again, this is the thing with false prophets. They can tell you truth once in a while, but they also can tell you lies or half truth and say, oh, no, you're good, you're good. No, you have to convert to Christ. And he's also having Jews apparently come up to him and he'd be like, ah, you're good. No, you have to accept the Father and the Son. So if they're approaching you saying, I want to accept the Son, you're going, no, you're good as you are. That's universalism, which Catholic, moon worship, remember, sun god, Allah, and you're again saying universalism. It's all good. It's all good. The moon can circle the earth like Saturn, like the rings that they have with all the logos from AAA to AT&T or all that stuff.
Yep.
So grove worship with, you can find it in Jeremiah and Ezekiel again, right before they go extraditing back to Babel. You constantly see these two prophets condemning or calling out or crying their hearts out like Jeremiah. I feel for that man because I understand. But they're looking at everybody going, stop building these things. Stop making cakes under Astaroth. Stop, please. Put them in a well. Really? People don't want to hear truth. They want to create their own truth. And this is where we get the word sophisticated from. It comes from the sophists. You can type that in, Sophists. And they were basically these philosophers that would play a parlor game trick. They would be paid for their philosophies. They can make up stuff on the spot, and that's your truth, or this tree, blah, blah, blah. And they make up this whole soliloquy argument of why this thing works. And that's where sophistication comes from, is off of the sophists. So that's kind of the foundation of that's your truth. That's your truth. Okay. And we can all live together, right? No. Not as a Christian. You're supposed to be set apart. That's what saint means. But just showing, because I'm getting this off of a magical response online, some witchcraft thing. So again, I'm pulling up their sources. I'm not just going, oh, you're just judging everybody for being. No. Let's see what you guys are telling everybody with what you believe. Your magic skills based off your zodiac astrology. based on your zodiac sign and element. Fire for Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Water, pointing downward. Air, earth. When you can join all of these together, that is the Star of Remphan.
Wow.
That is as above, so below. So when I'm seeing all these comment sections underneath the ad for a particular country saying, we need your donations. God bless. Like, you don't even realize it. Forgive them, Father. They know not what they do. You are literally spitting on Christ on a cross every time you type that, and you put this star after your comment, because this is what it represents. Your God is elementalism, is alchemy. You're a crypto Mason, essentially, or Kabbalist. No, I'm not. It's like, this is what it comes down to. And you don't even understand. You do things and you don't understand. This is what Kabbalah translates into traditions. This is what Christ is saying. You do the traditions of your father, of men. This is what he's talking about. And I don't want you to do that. So when you're over here going, oh, Satan as above, so below, it's like, no, that's alchemy. And this connects to Hermes Trismegistus, as within, so without. As the universe, so the soul. Soul. Everlasting life, immortality, soul, conjoin. Come on, guys. You know, it irks me. It irks me because it's like, guys, you're telling me you don't love God. One, or the I. So you've heard of, I think I might have told you this one in the last one. Something's telling me I did, but just a review for someone who didn't. But 322. Foundation of the skull and bones.
Yep.
3 times 22 equals 66. What's missing? The I, 1616. That's the number of the followers of the beast. 666 is the number of the beast. Hebrew gematria, Trump's name is 666. In English, it's 185, which means to manifest, vision. Just like the all-seeing eye connects to Tammuz. Tammuz, the eyes are the vision. I'm like, again, 33 times 2. So if you're a Mason, times 2 equals 66. What's missing? The I, God potential movement and independence. Become like your own God, God consciousness, Kundalini, chakra, whatever you want. Do as thou wilt. Just don't acknowledge Christ. That's what it comes down to. Is there's many ways to become your own God. And what was Satan known for? I will ascend to be like the God Most High. Oh, we can ascend with our God conscious. Sounds very emerald tablets of you. Very emerald tablets. What do they always depict Christ for us? A white tunic and a red sash. Tammuz, the great magician, maga, mage, wizard, great illusionist. On the 2017 Planet Trump, Economist magazine, they have Trump sitting on a globe. Underneath him is the magician. Next to Trump on the globe, we have the Tower of Babel falling. Underneath the magician on the right, we have a skeleton riding a white horse. Sounds very similar to Revelation 6:2.
That's weird.
Well, yeah, and 2017, 2 plus 0 plus 1 plus 7. Put it all together, we get 10. X, Osiris rising. Nimrod was Ra when he was alive. When he died, he became god of the underworld, and in life was regenerated into his son, Tammuz. So when we're getting the god of the underworld, I'm going to be showing you something on that. I'm just like, I don't know, because Hermes was known to be a trickster god that would occasionally lead souls to hell. Okay. I wouldn't want to follow this trickster god, because the magician. And what do we see here? The Tubal-Cain 8. 8th line. And what's he doing? The same pose, Statue of Liberty here, or the earth pose. You love the things of this earth. What do we get with a lot of patriots? I love this king. No, Christ or country. You can't have both, because that's just volt. That's saying God is, no. You have to choose one or the other. My kingdom is not of this world. Which one do you choose? I know it's hard, but you have to understand that. And you can see, again, the pentagrams on there. See the vegetation, a 3D stance. And it's emulated off of the Colossus of Rhodes. This was one of the seven ancient wonders of the world, and is based off the sun god Helios, the spiked crown. Yeah, I think that thing fell down. What was it, an earthquake, I believe? A lot of these temples and whatnot, as I was watching this YouTube thing, I said, God's always destroying these things with an earthquake, and I really love it because it's over here going, not anymore. That's
How
it.
the heck did they make that statue anyway? That is huge.
Uh-huh. And you have to kind of wonder, it's like, if they constructed this, you can't tell me they were ignorant peasants and stuff like that.
Right,
Extent that
exactly.
they paint and portray it for us in like cinema. There had
Mm-hmm.
to have been like roads. Hello, have you seen the Roman Appian Way? It's still great. Perfect. They're freaking closing down streets on my area for the last 6 months,
Yep,
closing off a street and redoing something, redoing that,
yep.
and I'm over here like, you guys can't get it down to save your
No,
life. So
no.
don't tell me we're evolving. We've devolved.
Yeah, that's true.
And then how they
Absolutely.
built some of these again,
Wow.
possibly Tataris, Empire of Bringing Hell. Founded. This church was founded. Maybe it was built by the Nephilim because of these big giant doors and
Mm,
stuff like that. But then it was Christianized, aka Catholic,
yeah.
to fit the narrative. But you look at the symbols and stuff like that, the vibration of all of the architecture and stuff like that. There was a reason. Founding, kind of have to wonder.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, Attis, you can, again, I'm showing non-bias. You can look it up anywhere you want to find your own thing. Helios, spike crown, Attis, like
Mm,
I said, is an equivalent of Tammuz, as we've confirmed. So Helios looks just like him. Statue of Liberty, and Sol Invictus, aka the unconquered sun god.
wow.
Dios Sol Invictus. Dios Volt. God wills it. Sun god wills it. Kind of have to wonder. And again, he's affiliated
Wow.
with Mithras. Mithras and Sol Invictus merged. Mithras and Sol Invictus, Mithraicism was a little bit more private, whereas Sol Invictus was kind of like the state religion.
Mm.
And Mithraism is very much a lodge-like structure. And I'm laughing at some of these authors. I'm like, yeah, you're comparing it to them, and then you're like, no, there's no affiliation with them. And I'm like, Mithraism, they used to practice within caves. Why? Because it stems off the Iranian belief that the sky was made of stone. So that's the stone within the cave was representing of the cosmos.
Mm.
They'd sometimes chisel a hole to see the particular stars in the sky. Magi, Pharisees were practicing some of this. Again,
Wow.
what is corona? In fact, the name coronavirus comes from the virus shape. When it is viewed under an electron microscope, it looks like the sphere with spikes coming, aka a spiked garland or crown. Angel Studios, that produces The Chosen. Look at the blue watermark and confirm I didn't make it up. This is their logo. All I did was keep putting lights on it of what we see in the background. Eventually we get the statue, the spiked crown here. Exact parallel.
Wow.
Put more light on it. We get a reptilian eye. It's like, you're not painting a Jesus that I want to follow anymore because that
Oh,
is,
I see it.
aha.
Yeah, I see it now. Yes.
And again,
Wow.
you have to always pull these images to kind of help show people, like, do you see it? I see it.
Yeah. What made you decide to even to check that? Jeez. I would never even think of that.
Someone recommended that I do it, and then I just put
Ah.
light, and I was like,
Mm.
oh, shoot. Stories of light. What do they emphasize in the logo? The G, just like Freemasons.
Huh.
Huh? And Jonathan Rumi is a Knights Templar, so it's like, do you remember Dagon in the Bible?
No, not in the Bible.
So when Israel was kind of going around and duking it out with the Philistines,
Mm-hmm.
the Philistines had obtained the Ark of the Covenant, and they took it as a trophy, and they brought it into the temple of Dagon. And of course, we're reading this, and of course, most Christians, they don't, they're just like, oh, cute story, yeah. Or because Dagon fell over. And they were like, all right, put it back on the cart
Yeah.
and ship it back because we're now all getting ill and sick and it's bad juju. Out, 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 out. So they do this. So, fun fact with Dagon, what does his name mean in the Bible? Grain in Semitic languages is what the name of Dagon represents, affiliated sometimes with the god of creation. And you note that he's a fish like looking god.
Mm-hmm.
The top of the Hermetic Kabbalah tree of life, it's a spike, just like the trident, which is supposed to be the
Mm.
sigil of Molech. So there's got to be a little bit of a fish god. And I don't know. I don't know. But I find this interesting because God of creation, and it also connects with grain. Okay. Because Infirmicus Maternus puts it, it is supposed that Attis, that little spike guy we just saw, and the Christmas guy, specifically identified with the fruit of cereals. We have a lot of cereal today, don't we? And
Yeah.
the punishment he endured is supposed to be identified with the harvester armed with the sickle and flicks on the ripe grain. He is supposed to have died during the grain harvest and to live again according to the annual cycle once the grains are reintegrated into the earth. We are not familiar with the pagan sources of Firmicus Maternus, according to whatever that person's name is. Attis means the flower and not the spike of or the ear, which dies before the grain appears. For him, any case, it seems that the grain is represented by a Adonis and not revived Attis. Now, it is therefore only between the 3rd and 4th centuries that most likely under Christian influence that the ideologies of Attis's resurrection was developed as formulated by the Emperor Julian and Celestius, the last pagan version of the mist ignores the resurrection. So we're affiliating, they're over here like, we need to update this because this whole resurrection of bringing Attis back would be better. And why? Because the pagan aspects of things is like, okay, we goofed up. We didn't know there was going to be a resurrection. So they killed off this Attis character, aka Tammuz's myth, and identified it with grain. Now, one of the other ways that Attis died was self-castration. Hence, a Kabbalist was when he was thinking of doing that to himself. As a loyal priest, that's what I do. This is where we get our Pride Month thing. And because it's, oh, look,
Oh, you cut it off completely, you're saying? Not circumcise. Cut it off. Oh gosh.
yeah,
Okay.
Uneki Neki. So the cause of death, there's 2 mythologies with Tammuz, is that he was killed by a wild boar every year. And again, this is where we get Ash Wednesday and eat pig for 40 days, pork, because you're going after the animal that killed him. But the best known myth of Tammuz describes him at the death of his hands of his lover, because he married grandma, because, Nimrod coming back, so why not? His punishment earned for his failure to mourn adequately when she became lost in the underworld, and then she came back and she sees him sitting gleefully on the throne. She's like, that's the way you feel about it. What I think might have occurred is that she kind of got upset at some point. It's very Game of Thrones-esque. And she says, hey, Satan, you want to use my son at any time in the future, feel free to do so because I hate his guts. Oh, you're going to give me a avatar? Yeah, use whatever you want. Son of Perdition? Yeah! And use him later on. This is where the Son of Perdition comes up. This would be Satan's avatar. And it would connect right back to the unholy trinity of Babel. Christ pagan doppelganger. So the text suggests that in Assyria, later among the Sabaeans, Tammuz was basically viewed as the power in the grain, dying when the grain was milled. And that's Britannica and Tammuz. So grain with Dagon, grain with Attis and Adonis, and grain affiliated with Tammuz. What did Christ say? I am the bread of life. In contrast, like eat my bread, eat this. What's he doing? Again, a doppelganger perspective. A liar. Adonis is a variation of Trump's name. Donald. Donald means world ruler. Adonis stems from is an equivalent of Dumazid, the Sumerian goat shepherd god. Dumazid's equivalent is Tammuz.
That's weird.
Oh, yeah. It gets really weird when you start digging into this stuff, but this one I can kind of skimp over. But just a rough thing: the supremacy of Mithra, again, Attis, Hermes, little variants here and there, is also shown by an enormous number of kings, princes, and nobles containing the name of God. And this is not only in the later days, but also in the earliest times. Conquering kings of Persia established their religion wherever they carried their victorious armies, especially in Babylon, uh, which became the winter residence of the great kings, was the Magian cult established in great splendor. And you'll find over here the Persian arms had laid their temporal power by previously reigned by the cities to be Chaldea, Babylon region, and and the priests of the conquerors, the Magi, aka Maga, were established in the highest places as the representatives of the religion of the court. But the Iranian religion was not strong enough to resist the fascination of the ancient faith and conquered and reached back. And then Mazda was connecting with Pharisees. Post-exile Judaism was strongly tinged with Mazdaism in the form of Phariseeism. Though it was not strongly disputed by some, Pharisees may have even owned their name of those doctrines they had partially absorbed. The Parashim may have been spelled Perishi in Hebrew transliteration. But only where the Pharisees were gradually became the national party among the Jews, imbued with Mazdaean ideals. But many schools of mystic and Gnostic nature arose in Syria and Arabia. Islamic Sufism is an equivalent, who were more or less adherents to Magian traditions. Magian, Magi, Maga, Babylon, call it whatever you will. This is what they're coming from. And I think I screenshotted this from a thing that folks can find a PDF online. The Mysteries of Mithra by G.R.S. Mead. This was only with like the first 20 pages, and I learned more about the Magi than I have in over a decade in church. I was like, okay, this puts a whole new spin on Pharisees and understanding the star religion, and them going, oh, no, 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 you're not the one we're looking for. It's like I did all the credentials perfectly. It is me. They didn't want that. Hermes, Thoth, where we get thought from, like I said, is affiliated with the Caduceus staff. What's the first trick that Moses pulls?
The throwing of his staff.
Yes. And he, again, as a prince of Egypt, you probably would know a little bit of this Thothian magic. But what does his do? It consumes the other magicians' snakes. Again, what folks don't seem to realize, after the magicians, wizard, mages, whatever you want to call them of the court, the wisdom men, they're not being liked so much anymore because, Christianity is starting to take form. So you start migrating further and further north with northern tribes with Druidism. This is where you get, again, 5 points on a pentagram. 4 represent the 4 elements. The 5th represents a tree or soul. And according to Hermes Trismegistus, like you could imbue a leaf or something like that and put a spirit of a god within the tree. So when you're breathing oxygen and stuff like that, in Druidism, when you're praying to a tree, this is what that is coming down to. Make little shrines, and God's like, they don't have mouths. They can't stop that. This is what they're doing, though. And what does Christ or Moses do when he goes out into the wilderness? Remember when they were talking and Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness? Why? Because they're still buying this poisonous ideology of turning away from God. He says, okay, you want a bronze serpent thing to look up to? You want to look back to the Thoth guy in Egypt? Moses, build them a little snake staff. It's going to be constructed by a man of God. You guys want to look at a symbol? Okay, fine. Here's a symbol. I'm mocking you at how stupid you sound. But you want to look to that? Then go ahead. Because then we get the verse. And again, right before John 3:16. And as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so must the Son of Man be lifted up, that whoever believeth in him may have eternal life. God so loved the world, he gave his only symbol of Tammuz, or Caduceus staff, chakra, kundalini. It's the same thing. And Christ puts himself on that. Just like with Aslan, don't recite the dark magic to me, which I know what's required. I'm putting myself in his stead. Okay. You want to? Yeah, I do. Because celestial currency now is in play. It's not just blood of man. It's now you realize what you're I do. Okay. Just I do. He dies, dead for 3 days. Ah, da, 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 comes back. Huh? Yeah. Oh, by the way, all of you ones that came down here and fell away, they're going to take your positions on the heavenly council. What? Because I just broke the barrier. Now they can have access to that. Because what we get, Genesis 6:4, sons of God come down and had affairs with the daughters of men. We go over to 1 John, and Paul writes, behold, what manner the love of the Father, that we, Christians, should be called the sons of God. This is why we wrestle against Christian spirits in high places. Why? Because you're taking their place on a celestial council. Would you not be kind of angry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Again, symbol of Tammuz, cross. The symbol of Thoth. Again, what's on top of it? The pine cone. Osiris, staff of Osiris. It's in Sumerian on the Caduceus, Aaron's rod, the Sanskrit chakras. Like I said, at the very top, Maga in Sanskrit means high priest of the sun. Could be a coincidence, but they seem to believe it. Kabbalah, the tarot, like I said before, with Mercury, connects with Hermes, tarot cards, the elements. So yes, they're all pagan, Ashtaroth. And look, this is the description, as above, so below, with the magician. Remember the magicians and the staff? So you see it. It's in the Bible. So Nimrod's son, Tammuz, this is what they're believing. This is what they're promoting. And they're leading the people of Israel astray because they're following this guy. Not supposed to do that. Apis bull, they're building a golden calf. Look up Apis bull in Egypt. That was a god of virality, strength, and leadership. That was a ketubah ceremony. When you write down in stone a marriage contract, they're doing this at the base of Mount Sinai, and there's a nice little tent ceremony, and God's saying, I'm going to be your husband. I'm going to provide protection and provision. Moses, what are they doing? Moses comes down. He knows what the Apis bull represents. They're literally cheating on their honeymoon. That is a spiritual cheating on a honeymoon. Think of it in that perspective. I'd probably be breaking some tablets too. Like, are you serious right now? Are you serious that this is what... Now you're doing it with trees. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. Again, I think there is something about a branch, and it was a bad smell to God's nose in Ezekiel chapter 8 when you continue reading that. Not sure, but there's a picture of Nimrod holding a reindeer and holding a branch in the other hand. And I was kind of wondering, does that have any connotation with that? That a branch was connecting with an incense ceremony connected with this groves unto Ashtaroth and Baal?
Maybe.
But my buddy, he does Kundalini. He's telling me it's not, but you're against Christmas trees now. Yes. But you're also against the New World Order. Yes. So this all-seeing eye thing, correct. But look, to quote Albert Pike, Freemasonry is the search for light, as you will see, leads us directly to the Kabbalah. Same thing.
Yep.
Any variations, but the same thing, the same coloring. And again, this is from their pages where you get this little Caduceus all-seeing eye thing right there. Is that you think you can ascend to be like the God Most High. You invert this, and you get the pride flag.
What?
Hmm?
Oh, I see what you're saying, because the
I'll
colors you
have a
mean.
visual later. But do you realize that the dollar sign is the serpent staff?
Wow, no. Wow.
Again, how do I know? How do I know? Look, Caduceus. It's
Oh,
just
yeah.
genitals. Got
Ugh.
the wings. Got the
Yeah.
wings. Again, what's this? This cosmic egg that Thoth was born out of, allegedly. Again, where we get Easter eggs from.
Hmm.
We're having our kids running around collect these Easter eggs. Why? Because it represents their God. Ascension. Doing it on your own. Do it on your own.
But they sure
Again.
got the whole world fooled, don't they?
Oh, yeah.
Everyone. Yeah.
And it's
Nobody
basic
knows.
when you dig. According to the CIA, when someone's gets to 33, the vertebrae of Golgotha, it creates a superimposed image of the spirit, the body, and all the components thereof become the Kundalini as a temporal paradox. They die and live through Christ and the old neural network freely moving in the vessel. This old mapping of the first vessel is the Holy Ghost. The second time one gets to 33 by the number 66. It decimates the first image and keeps the second. Therefore, God in the flesh and something greater than man is in control. 777 is when one bio lightning of the lightning flash of the creation. Again, lightning, Zayin, mark of Cain. They're saying this is good. With this, Golgotha, do you know that when they're saying Golgotha, people are like, oh, God, the hill kind of looked like a skull, and this is how I got the name Golgotha. Skull.
Oh yeah.
Let's pause for a moment. Golgotha, Goliath. What did David do? He cut off Goliath's head.
Mm-hmm.
Golgotha, the place of the skull, takes his head and buries it there. What do we get now in Rewind to Genesis? His heel will bruise thy head, thy seed, Nephilim's seed. Christ gets put on a cross. I wouldn't be surprised if it was right on top of Goliath's head underneath.
I think that's what Doug said. What's his name? Oh my God. Doug Van Dorn. He talks about that.
Okay. But yeah, if it's true, I'm just like, that's pretty dope.
Yeah.
They pulled off so much symbolism at this cross. They thought they were beating him at their own game with putting symbols of mockery. And he conquers all of that. That is why they still hate Christians as followers to this day. Talmud is saying he's boiling in excrement in hell, that he mated with donkeys. His mother was a whore that mated with carpenters. This is what they're still saying. And you're saying, God bless those people. The ones still mocking him today, this is what the IDF is learning in their schools. And I have a clip I could play for you on that, or anybody that was asking. So they have tiers within Mithraism, again, connects with Moon, Mercury, Mars, the Sun, Venus. Notice that the Caduceus fits right on top of the Sephiroth of the Kabbalah tree. Caduceus, Sephiroth, this is what they practice. When you do hopscotch, dot, out, in, out, in. 10. Yeah. Constantly throwing it in our faces and we don't see it.
Mm-mm.
Venus would connect to pentagram or the Queen of the Heavens. Divine degree of Saturn would be Nimrod. Mercury, reflection. Again, the eyes. Ascending. You seen this one?
No.
So you see the E at the top. Again, your back's face the west.
Mm-hmm.
East to west. You look that up. There's a bunch of articles with Trump, east to west, east meets west, east meets west. I'm like, that's affiliated with Helios, the spiked crown guy. And he has that picture of Helios riding in his penthouse apartment on a wall over an all-seeing eye and a pentagram between two pillars. Well, if you understand symbol, again, their backs face the west. This is always an opposite in contrast. Is that the Garden of Eden, where it was located, it's always doing the opposite, putting your backs against God. This is what is in Ezekiel chapter 8. So the two pillars, two towers, we have a lady sitting at the top, sitting underneath the sun, Re, which would be Nimrod, so his symbol. Go down here, we have Nimrod pointing up to the Queen of the Heavens, crescent moon and the stars, her logo. What's in the middle? We have a young man doing the earth pose, just like Statue of Liberty. And what's he doing? He's holding a key in one, and he's got an anchor in the other. Now, in Freemasonry, anchor means hope, and he has a key underneath the all-seeing eye. Why? Because you're unlocking your God potential through Tammuz, the Messiah figure of the occult. That's what this all means. So you could look at this picture and be just like, two twin towers, and the third tower that fell that no one talks about had 47 floors. 11, 4 plus 7 is 11, duality. And it means wisdom and ascension to walk between these two pillars. like Candace Owens just recently did at a Catholic church with a black and white floor. I was like,
No.
you could say you're not, darling, but you are, because that's a very, very symbolic photo shoot you just did. What did Tammuz say, or Hermes? The sun is father, the moon is mother. Two snakes conjoined, incestuous seed to produce the Messiah figure, the wings, the all-seeing eye. As above, so below, feminine and masculine coming together to create the Star of Remphan. And again, you can look it up, Hermes, the Real Alchemists on Instagram. That's them. I'm showing you them because this is what they believe. So in Kabbalah, doctrine is the holy serpent which resides within the tree of life. The serpent is the guide for each you, and I say that as in a religion, not an ethnicity, because as a Christian, we don't believe in racism. So even supporting the idea that a certain race is better than everybody else, that is Darwinism. So throwing that out there. Collectively, it leads all you-ish nation from the abyss upward into godhood. Inside the circles are the names of the Kabbalistic deities, yous often pray to and have mental holy sex with in the Judaic gods and goddesses. Well, yeah, how's this connect? Okay. To activate the unconscious means to awaken the divine or the Devi in the Kundalini. The divine developed the super-personal within the individual in order to kindle the light of the gods. Kundalini, which is to be awakened in the sleeping of the Malahara world, is the super-personal, the non-ego. For this reason, Kundalini is the same principle as the Soter, the savior serpent of the Gnostics, Dr. Carl Jung. Now, you'll see a lot of times with Mithra, there's the slaying of the bull. I'm not sure if you've ever seen, see that picture where he's slaying the bull and he's turning his head away as he slits its throat? That's a symbol of us sacrificing the ego for the greater good, and the shedding of the blood is how the earth gets formed. So that's all in their stuff, and I'm over here going, okay, so sacrificing the ego, you could become your own god is how you do it? No, you have to submit to the creator. It's to submit to him, not within. This is where a big thing I'm always trying to tell folks. Stop saying, oh, the temple of God's within me. And it's like, no, not like that. Not like that. The temple of God is within you, as in you are indwelled with the Holy Spirit. And that means submission, not I'm self-exalted now because I can become. No, 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 no. No, no, no. CERN, named after Cernunnos, the god of the underworld, the Celtic lord of hell, is the
Didn't know
headquarters.
that.
Yes, Geneva, Switzerland. Okay, it's an equivalent of Osiris.
Okay.
Shiva doing the cosmic dance of destruction in front. Shiva is the Hindu avatar that parallels Nimrod, who built the Tower of Babel. CERN's Hadron Colliders, rings of Saturn, or what it mirrors. In the occult, Saturn is the dark sun, or the prison planet of the fallen angels. CERN is designed as a teleportation machine to Saturn. The secret mission of CERN is to unleash Apollo, Apollyon, like we get in the Bible, Abaddon, Abaddon. The secret mission of CERN is to unleash Apollo and the dark angels from the abyss and to create a stairway to heaven to make war against God Almighty. That song, Stairway to Heaven, was composed in Aleister Crowley's house in Scotland. You play it backwards. You can find this on YouTube, Stairway to Heaven backwards. And it's a very demonic song. When you hear it, it's like, oh, shoot, what am I listening to? Because you'll note the lyrics don't make any sense, really. But when you play it backwards, you start going, oh, I don't know if I want to listen to any music now, because that's kind of scary. CERN is where we get our internet from. Inter, place for a tomb or corpse. Net, to restrain or to hold something.
Wow.
World Wide Web, keep everybody in a net. What does Christ say to some of his first recruits? Follow me, I'll make you fishers of men. Save people from this. I don't think that's a coincidence. Right.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful when you're like,
yeah.
CERN, according to Caesar, equates Cernunnos to Dispatar, a Roman god of death of the underworld, who perhaps is an aspect to Pluto. How interesting. Dispatar, Saint Petar. Dis means to be set apart. Patar was a Roman god of the underworld. Dispatar originally associated with fertile agricultural land and mineral wealth. And those minerals were from underground. He was later equated with the symbiotic deities of Pluto and Orcus. Orcus egg, the Orcus egg. Interesting. And Dispatar, Saint Petar. Oh, it's the one true church. Yeah, if Nimrod is your god. As Christian, saint, supposed to be set apart, Dispatar. But do you see how they're interfusing it? Oh, he does this. When Christ says, upon this rock, I will build my church or kingdom, ecclesia, picture it was like this. All right, demons, you hearing this? What happened here at Mount Hermon, forbidden, cursed, I'm going to start my kingdom of heaven right here with these disciples you see right now. Wow. Yeah, because Hermon was also alleged to be a portal or a gateway to hell, according to the Hebrew lore. And you have him saying this spiritually to everybody there to hear that we're starting the war right here. This is ground zero. Now, as a demon, you're over here going, yeah. Because again, we always say demon, fallen angel. No. Daemon means spirit being. So when a giant was slain, they couldn't go to heaven. And they can't go down to Tartarus or under the river Euphrates where their parents are. So what happens? It says in Enoch, they will roam the earth for 70 generations until the time of the end. Now, what did we just get with CERN? They want to bring back these demons? Did you know that the root server for all the internet is known as demon?
No.
AI, A equals 1. 9 is the ninth letter in the alphabet. AI equals 10. X, Osiris rising. Demonic possession. Because what is Christ doing? Don't worry about those who can kill the body. Because guess what? Greater is he that is within you. Your body is now a temple of the Lord. So if the presence of God is already within the saints, then don't worry. Your soul is spared for the kingdom of heaven. It's in the book of life. In contrast, somebody signs this mark of the beast contract, Bitcoin, whatever you want to call it. You go into this full force. Like, again, that's where you're full. And right now, maybe not be evil, but if this is what you become, you're then consenting, demonically possess me. Because giants, what are they constantly doing in Christ's ministry? I want a body. I want to possess somebody. Legion, they're having a full-on party within one individual. Now imagine they do this internationally. And you've consented through AI, internet, meta, what I say means death, internet, place for a tomb or a corpse, net. You're now caught within this matrix. Yeah, it's terrifying, but this is what it is, folks, is that your bodies now become a vessel for them. And you had the chance to have the Holy Spirit to cancel that out and say, no, you're now my temple. I have claimed you. I think it's in Corinthians, 1 Corinthians, where it's talking about your body's a temple of the Lord, and those who try to destroy his temple, he'll go after and avenge him. So don't worry about it. But this you have to understand. One's a soul, the other one wants flesh. One's preserved your soul, the other one wants your body. And now they're mad because they just lost somebody from the kingdom of heaven. So the real thing is we're not worried about so much sinners. They're already lost. They're already buying all of our lies. What we want Christians to be silent. We want them quiet. We want them asleep, sleeping bridesmaids. We don't want them seeking knowledge. We don't want them looking into conspiracy theories. As long as they keep checking in and doing Sunday, aka Sol Invictus Day, we got them. So when a Christian starts waking up and becomes vocal, this is what they don't like. But anyways, just connecting a little bit more, Roman Mithras, Mitrahat, connects with the Roman army, became a popular god. Something interesting, Mithras was born of a virgin, just like Attis. Again, the Christmas tree origins. Oh, look, he's impregnated me for you a tree, huh? Yeah. So think of a Christmas tree as Nimrod's phallus, and maybe you never want to do it again. Because the wreath and why it has red, is supposed to be blood from a womb of a birth canal. Yeah. So think about what you're doing, because I'm over here I'm like, this is so much idolatry. Why? Mithraists call themselves brother, and were led by a priest called Father, aka Pater. Dispater? Father? pater, don't call any man father on this earth. So again, when you're saying, brother so-and-so, why don't you come up? Don't call me that. Please don't call me that. Symbol of the father was a staff, a hook sword, or a ring and a hat. And again, moon god, like we said before with Allah. I was just throwing it in here for a review. Don't need to go through all that with you. Balfour Declaration, though. 1917. Everybody's going, it's always been their land. Do you know about the Balfour Declaration? The what?
No.
You don't?
No, I've never
Oh
heard
yeah,
of it.
I love it. Because this one, the Havara Agreement, aka the Transfer Agreement, and you can find that by an Israeli author, Edwin Black, the Transfer Agreement. Write that down, folks. Great book, and he's talking about how the Z's had an alliance with the Nazis to basically persecute a small portion of the Jews, to force them to want to get out of Europe and go and settle into Palestine. Why? Because you need to have some of the real ones to go over there as you infiltrate and create your new world order hub. This is where they want their new world order capital. The Balfour Declaration was a public statement issued by the British government in 1917 during the First World War, announcing its support for the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine, then an Ottoman region with a small majority of a Jewish population. The declaration was contained in a letter dated on November 16th of 1917 from the United Kingdom's Foreign Secretary Arthur Balfour, the Lord to Lord Rothschild. A letter of the British Jewish community, transmission to the Zionists Federal Foundation of Great Britain and Ireland. The text of the declaration was published in the press on November 9th of 1917.
Never heard of that.
Huh? And fun fact, I should have pulled this slide up. I do apologize. But on a temple coin that was formulated in 2017, has Trump Cyrus Balfour Declaration.
Wow.
Within 100 years, because 1917 was when this was founded, and then they have the other thing, and they have Trump and Cyrus mirrored right on top of each other. Interesting.
Yeah.
1917 was also the year that Aleister Crowley wrote his novel, The Moonchild, for how to bring about an Antichrist figure, which, again, was replicated in the experiment by, what's his name? Jack Parsons, the guy for rocket science and NASA, and
yes.
Founder of the Church of Scientology, L.L.
Yes.
Hubbard, who
That's
said
right.
he founded it to bring about the Antichrist figure. Trump was going on during this time. Likely conceived around 9/11. Born in the month of Tammuz, June 15th.
That's weird.
Sorry, 14th. Because 1 plus 4 equals 5 pentagram in the month of Tammuz. I'm like, again, Solomon brothers with 9/11. Again, coronation day for kings in ancient Israel. You have to go between the two pillars to find your higher wisdom and the third tower that fell. Solomon brothers. King Solomon had the two pillars of Yakin and Boaz, as I did in the Sacred Seed episode. You'll understand baptism a lot more, and you'll understand what Freemasonry, because Solomon fell away, started worshiping these other gods and goddesses. It's alleged that the Ring of Solomon had the power to dictate animals and demonic beings, the six-pointed Star of Remphan, and that he had this ring that gave him that power, quote unquote. This is where we get the ringmaster at a circus. Yeah, you dictate everything that goes on around you. Clowns, remember that? Yeah. I'm not sure the name of that opera, but you probably know him.
Yes, yeah. Yes, yeah. I interviewed him. Yes.
Oh, yes, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was reading some of the similar stuff, and then I'm watching some of his stuff, and I was like, oh, wow, I gotta talk to him at some point.
Yes, he's really nice.
Yes. But yeah, this is what this is connecting into. And if that's the Star of Remphan, that allegedly when the Knights Templar found it in the Holy Land, they began to spit on crosses and started worshiping Baphomet. Baphomet is an equivalent of Hermes, Hermeticism. This is what Freemasonry worships. Some people are saying, oh, they're just trying to get a cute tale using the Templars, and, because it sounds like a nice little thing with old men playing with swords. But no, they basically King Philip of France, the Fourth, was borrowing a bunch of money from the Templars, and he was getting into so much debt. He's like, I know what they're doing behind closed doors, so I'll just use this. It's apostasy. They're having intercourse with themselves, and they are worshiping the Baphomet. So I think you should execute them, Pope. So they do, and they get rid of a whole bunch of them. And this is where October the 13th, Friday the 13th, this is where that superstition came along. Yeah. So what happened is they go underground and form the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry in Scotland. And then the other half went into Portugal. And this is where they became the Masonic lodges and variations, Rosicrucians, this thing, that thing. Again, I'm throwing out names because I don't want somebody to get onto specifics, but I'm saying this is where a lot of secret society starts stemming off. Take a little of this, take a little of that, and you get somebody like Aleister Crowley. I'm part of the Orders Knights Templars, this thing, that thing, the yoga, this thing. So why? Because for somebody who's higher up, all of this stuff is basically like a buffet smorgasbord. It's a little of this, a little of that, and oh my gosh, I'm so, Social security, two pillars, twin towers. Note the eagle or the bird of prey, which would connect with Hermes. Symbols of Hermes would be the hawk, the falcon, the tortoise. Fun fact, America was known as the land of the phoenix and or Tortoise Island. Yeah, and I'm like, okay, phoenix, a bird, an eagle, between two pillars. Again, all-seeing eye. Got to take a little bit of something here that there's got to have been something that happened. What happened exactly? Like Trump was 55 when the towers went down, 5 plus 5, X. Corona happens 19 years later, 1 plus 9, X. 19, 1 plus 9, X, C19. So I'm over here going, yeah, that's a lot of X's. And again, if you understand their etymology and anthropology, you start seeing it. Sun god worship, as we see within the Vatican, Smithsonian. It all worships Tammuz, not Christ. But this is what we have. So Whore of Babylon, yes. Helios, and over here, both gods were known as the all-seeing in Helios's case. Eyes, the symbol of Tammuz. So I want folks to know you can start Googling this stuff. Don't just take my word for it. I already covered some of that. Idolatry. Again, some of it I'm just showing for visual purposes. I don't want to just drag this on and on and on and on, but a lot of all this other stuff. If Christ's birthday was during the Feast of Trumpets, born on 9/11, which is Coronation Day for Kings in ancient Israel, born during the Feast of Trumpets, again, Jericho, walking around 7 times, then you're blowing the trumpets. What does Christ do? He returns during the sounding of the trumpets, the marriage feast. So I kind of am like, but Mithra, December 25th. Dionysus, December 25th. Dionysus was known as the masked god of theater. We're all wearing masks during 2020. So, again, Osiris, Horus, Attis, again, it's always there. Like I said, this is what you could possibly visualize as the Wanky going into the, So, Christmas tree and the wreath, if someone's not visually able to see. I'm just trying to be very delicate because it's a very crude symbolism, and we're putting it up with such zeal. Like I'm literally like, do you realize the amount of idolatry? Oh, here we go. Fifth canon, basing off of Trump, like I said. Canon connects with oh Tannenbaum, you're worshiping a pagan Christmas tree. But Hermes, Brother Wimhurst, also regards the name Hiram as identical with Hermes. Hiram Abiff was the guy that helped build the temple and bringing down the cedar trees and whatnot to help construct it. I'm chuckling because Solomon builds this temple, and it's alleged that it was built over the spot where God created Adam, the first man. What does Christ do in contrast? No. No longer a physical temple. We're not going to need a third temple. Why? Because greater is he that is within you. That's what that temple veil means. You guys are now my temple. You are my ecclesia. My presence resides into those who abundantly seek me. What does it say in Hosea 4:6? My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. And because Thou hast rejected knowledge. I will reject you from being my high priest, and I will also forget your children. High priest was the only one allowed to go in the Holy of Holies wearing white robes like a bride. So you have to kind of go, wait. So those of us who understand what Holy Spirit is, then bridesmaids, remember, 5 of them have thy word as a lamp unto my feet. 5 of them don't have their oil together. Gethsemane means oil press. His disciples were falling asleep. It's like, I already gave you this parable, guys. But they didn't understand all the parables. They
No.
didn't understand because they weren't indwelled yet, hadn't been unleashed yet until the gift on the cross. Now all of a sudden they're going, are you ready to feed my sheep, fisherman? Yeah. You don't deny me anymore. He denied him 3 times. He says, yes, I'm ready to feed your sheep now because I get it. In fact, I'm willing to die upside down on that symbol that you died because I really do get it. And I love you radically for it. I'm getting teary-eyed. Sorry. This is what it's all about, folks. Because when you
Yeah.
understand this, you start going, this is all in the Bible. Yes. And again, Hiram, in Sanskrit, Huram, Sanskrit word for guru means spiritual teacher. Hiram a Biff Tannen, teacher, father, teacher from the father, the Masonic initiation. Hiram was a widow's son, just like Nimrod, Horus, Tammuz. Horus, the child of Isis, was the reincarnation of his own father, Osiris, just like Nimrod. And so was the Pasmusius child, well as described as the widow's son. Again, Mason, widow's son. There's an etymology connection there, as I've read before. Through the tribe of Nephili, he was born to reside in Tyre. Woe unto Tyre and Sidon. This has a connection to this. And many will say, therefore, he learned from the Dionysian fraternity, which had a center there. Apollo and Dionysus were brother gods, half brothers. Nimrod did his mom. Yeah. So Apollo being half brother to, it checks out. And this is foundations of a lot of Nietzsche's philosophies was based off of this stuff that he learned. During the Enlightenment era, it was bringing in a lot of Hermeticism. Remember, a lot of the founding fathers were just deists, a higher being. How very Masonic of you. This is what a lot of people say. Oh, just, there's a higher being up there. No, you have to acknowledge the Father's Son. That is how you get in. No one gets to the Father except by me. Why? Because I fulfilled the old covenant by coming into the flesh. Now I am the Father's word proof. I am living proof that my Father's word is good, but you have to accept me in order to access the Father. That's what the gift of me. That's how you get into the Holy of Holies. That's how the Ark of the Covenant becomes you. A lot of Christians aren't getting that.
No.
Tammuz, ironically enough, his little hat looks like the Mithra hat.
Mm-hmm.
And he's carrying a pine cone, dripping it in blood. And again, Hermes' purse, yes, it does connect with this guy carrying the little bucket. Oh, here we go. Solvay and Coagula. See the both tattoos? Again, J.K. Rowling. On either side, and again, this is from the same book, G.R.S. Mead, The Mysteries of Mithra. You can find this online. On either side of the small figures, almost duplicates of Mithra, holds a torch upward, with like Statue of Liberty, or a torch in reverse. And the dataphors and torchbearers represent the powers of life and death, the waking and the waning, the spirit of autumn and the ascent and descent. They are also the symbols of the 2 great powers represented in the alchemetical and Rosicrucian, which is Christian Master Mason, tradition. By the right side in the raised with finger pointing upwards, and the left hand of the finger pointing downwards. And the left downwards, accompanied by the mystic utterances coagula and salve, and to collect and disperse, fix and vitalize. So Mithra has a direct correlation with Baphomet and Hermes. So it's not just me going, oh, you're pulling at strings. No, this is an actual ritual with Mithraism, which connects with Knights Templar worshipping of Baphomet. So again, Hermeticism, hermaphrodite. Baphomet you see is reflected in the mirror in the Vatican. Christ pagan doppelganger, Nimrod's son Tammuz. Yeah, it's just Satan. Not quite. Think of the Avatar, their savior figure. Their savior figure does something for them. Christ did something for us as well. But theirs is a earthly, I did something for you. Whereas Christ, in contrast, is I gave you something celestial, that free there be that find it will understand this gift. Do you have something you want to say?
No, I'm looking at
Okay.
the Nassau. What's the Nassau and the snake?
Serpent. This is where inside the where the little Pope currently is giving all his little speeches and whatnot.
What?
Yeah, and then NASA is the tongue. That's the tongue of the serpent that a lot
Oh,
of folks don't seem to realize.
no,
Minus
I never
T
saw that.
before they launch. Minus T, Satan.
Oh, wow.
Again, even Family Guy made a joke about that NASA means to deceive. And I was over here like, well, that guy is a Jew, so I'm saying that by his own declaration. That's not derogatory. I'm just saying he would probably know and wouldn't
Yeah.
want to spread misinformation on a comedy show because, that just wouldn't be good. But Hermes, 6th century, he's alleged to be the originator of coinage. Ironically, the IRS just looks like the Israeli Supreme Court, and we have the all-seeing eye. So when people are saying pray for, I'm like, that sounds like Stockholm syndrome. Tax me harder, send more packages. It's like you're saying one thing, but symbolism wise, do you realize it? Like I told some people, you can barely interpret the back of your dollar bill symbolism wise. And you think you can predict who the Antichrist figure is going to be? And I walk away laughing because if I'm able to understand this as a Christian who studied the symbolism, occult wise, they're laughing tenfold. Yeah, it's 33. You have no idea what it means. Yeah, it's
I know.
666, but you have no. Or I just did this and you have no idea. Or you think that's rock on? Oh, you silly person. And this is what it all comes down to is because people do not understand that they can laugh and mock you constantly. Jesuit order with the all-seeing eye. Ra, Re on one side, Thoth, Hermes on the other, left and right. What the symbols mean. The eyes of Horus or the all-seeing eye. And this would be Nimrod. The other would be Thoth, Hermes, equivalent. So I'm not just making it up. I'm showing you how it does connect into the Bible and within the church or Catholic Church, counterfeit Christianity. Lucifer found it worthy to cover up one of the eyes for their show advertisement, known as a
Oh,
Faustian
yeah.
bargain eye. So you're giving up a part of yourself to obtain higher wisdom, just like Odin. I give
Oh,
up a part of
yes.
myself.
Yep.
That's what that symbolizes.
Oh,
Kevin
wow.
Hart, Bruce Willis, Ariana Grande, Tom Hanks, as we all know, and then even the boys, they were making fun of it with calling out Oprah and Tom Hanks for child trafficking blatantly
Mm.
in a TV show. Why? Because a lot of us are going, yeah, they're doing all that. We don't understand anything though. They never acknowledge that. Like when people are sharing the thing, like with Big Mike, I did a reel yesterday. Oh, instant share, ha ha ha! They're so depraved and immoral. When it comes to actual history or serious things, I'm not going to share that because you don't understand. You want to be entertained by their depravity and their immorality because, oh, they're a lot worse than me, as opposed to actually being vocal on every topic. That's something I notice with a lot of Christians. But Mr. Russell Brand, oh, 33 means Christ. No, 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 no. Let's not play that game, Mr. Brand. Again, he's
No.
doing the water logo, possibly a coincidence, but then he has the all-seeing eye as one of his tattoos. On the other side, he has the chakra, which Corona is at the very top. You don't tell me you're doing the vow of silence for Masonry. So don't tell me you don't know. And then his baptismal ceremony, they had baptisms for Mithraism to be reborn.
Oh,
Was
that's supposed to be a phallus? Is that what you're saying? I'm sorry.
which
When
one?
he's doing like be quiet
No,
sign?
that's the vow of silence. Like you're not supposed to talk about what
Oh.
we do in here. It's all
Oh,
secret.
okay.
The levels, the tier levels, the inner knowledge. You get a lot of reading material, and you don't even get to read Albert Pike until you get to like the higher degrees.
Mm.
So a lot of them good natured. There's a lot of Christian stuff like that. But like I was talking to this 33-degree guy, former, he was saying that once he figured out that Albert Pike was endorsing Lucifer, he's like, no. He says he gave his life back over to Christ, and he says his wife said you literally felt different in when we were sleeping. I woke up and it was like there was a different. Your energy was so much different. He's like, yeah, because I gave it back over to Christ. I don't want to be possessed with this stuff, you know? And that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's very satanic. It's always pulling at your core.
Hmm.
Again, this is Naomi Campbell's thing with her special, I don't know, vacation place with the
What?
all-seeing eye. Yeah. So they're showing you. Some people's like, how do you know they're not just doing it for coincidence because the camera guy told them to? I never
Right.
posted photos like that.
Yeah.
I mean, when I'm doing the show, I'm doing it for just for reference because I'm like,
Right.
I'm condemning it
Yeah.
unequivocally. If folks aren't ever paying attention, then I always say I condemn it. Siri, spell it backwards, is Iris.
Hmm.
Iris, all-seeing eye.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey Siri, are you consulting
That
a
is
god? And again, over the
interesting.
what do you call it? The Washington Monument. See the all-seeing eye there? Climate change
Oh.
is an I for
Oh
13.
yeah.
Yeah. And again, 13, I think, was the number for Hermes Trismegistus. They're saying I have the three philosophies of all this stuff. Elon Musk's mom, looking for a VP.
Oh my God.
Witchcraft propaganda. She's doing the LC and I,
She
the
sure is,
Russian
yeah.
bargain. Yeah. So in the wake of 9/11,
Did you know that
can you hear it?
Yes.
You can. Oh, that's a new one. In the wake of 9/11, this is what occurred. It's only about a minute, if that.
there was a ceremony featuring the all-seeing eye conducted on the live television broadcast for the one-year anniversary of 9/11?
Is the mayor of New York, Michael Bloomberg.
Again today, we are a nation that mourns. Again today, we take into our hearts and minds those who perished on this site 1 year ago, and also those who came to toil in the rubble to bring order out of chaos, and those who throughout these 12 months have struggled to help us make sense of our despair. Now we join with our fellow Americans in a minute of silence, led by President George W. Bush from the South Lawn of the White House in Washington.
Yep.
So they're telling me, you're wrong. It's not Coronation Day. Baron Trump wasn't born until 2003. Some people are saying, it says, so think of it this way. If the occult originally had Nimrod, and then it was Tammuz reincarnated Nimrod, you need to have a Tammuz and then go back into Nimrod, right? So if Baron Trump is the last president, quote unquote, what we see in the book or whatever, the predicting thing, they first need to have a Tammuz empire before they could go back into a Nimrod. The thing is, Trump is the one that's being referred to as their Christ. And when they gave him the Menorah Award, I think it was Isaiah 6:9 or 9:6, where it's the prediction of Christ's prophecy, and they call it the Prince of Peace. They gave that to Trump. Trump is being sought out right now for a Davidic bloodline. And he's also helping build the third temple, which is not necessary. Yeah. And he's nicknamed the Second Cyrus, which is a variation of their Messiah figure.
Right.
Chica Flint, the Messiah contains esoteric revelation, the Messiah of the Jews, again, tree religion people, possessed by the Holy Spirit. Thus, the Kabbalah at its rotten core contains the ultimate kernel of knowledge to discover the mystery teachings, and the great secret of the Holy Serpent is God. He is destined by the rabbis to disclose the initiates, to incarnate the body of the mind of their Christ Messiah to come. Blah, 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 blah. This will be the same of the New Age mystics called the Lord Maitre, whom the Babylonians knew as Tammuz and the Greeks as Hermes. Trump's name, be a variation of Donnie, Dawn, right? Okay. You could call him the Dawn, the Magadon, Armageddon, Maga Red Dawn, all the same letters. And again, Dumazid or Dumazin was a Sumerians, Dumazid the shepherd, and his parents were Ishtar or Nana and Dutter. His equivalent is Adonis, and we have over here Adonis's equivalent is Tammuz. And Tammuz's equivalent of Hermes. So that's all connecting with to Trump. And God Made Trump trailer. You watched that for Paula White Cain? God made Trump to be a shepherd unto mankind. And I was like, a shepherd unto mankind? Doesn't Christ say he separates the sheep from the goats, and the goats is connecting to Hermes Baphomet? I wonder. Like I said before, the God particle, and I said before, all this MAGA stuff. He's compared himself to Christ. again. Song out there, a worship song called The Chosen One with Trump. Hermes, Mercury, the symbol. Fun fact, the symbol of transgenderism, hermaphrodite, pansexual. Pan is another goat god. It's the same symbol as Mercury, which connects to Hermes. Like I said, inverted.
Wow.
Turn the world upside down. Again, what month did they pick for Pride Month? June, the month of Tammuz. Who signed Operation Warp Speed? Adonis Triumph. This guy,
Right.
Liberty Cap. Liberty, like Statue of Liberty. So we must ask ourselves, did the model of liberty, freedom, and equality die with you, or the cult of Mithras? Did his red cap of liberty, red cap, fall to the ground forever, never to rise to the dark ages? Much later, some would say by magic, some would say by coincidence, some would say that the spirit never dies. The Phrygian cap came to be a figure of the heavenly French Revolution iconography, probably influenced by the Roman goddess Libertas.
The color red, is that what they're saying?
The
That
red
means
caps
something?
of Phrygians, or the Mithra cults, always affiliated with Sons of Liberty. We are the Sons of Liberty, and they all put the candles on a tree during the American Revolution.
Okay.
And wrapping up, remember when I said Trump is known as their Cyrus?
Yeah.
I already said that it's time to bring back the death penalty for hate crimes and anti-Semitism. And since they're passing legislation to equate an ideology with an ethnicity, it's kind of scary because it could be a very fluid definition of who do we take out. And again, we're almost done. The earthly god of Judaism, who is androgynous, just like Baphomet, is known as Leviathan or Malkuth, the bottom of the Hermetic Kabbalah tree of life. Like we said, hopscotch. Adopted by the rabbis as the god of the Jews during their captivity in ancient Babylon, Babylonian Talmud. Flint explains, Leo Sheea of the universal meaning of the Kabbalah says that the wisdom of the Kabbalah returned to Israel after the captives were set free by Cyrus, Persian conqueror of Babylon, and some rabbis and many of the people returned to Jerusalem to rebuild the destroyed temple. That is why the Talmud, the Halakha law books of the Jews, are called the Babylonian Talmud. This is also why centuries later, Jesus in Jerusalem bluntly told the Jews that their religion, emphasis on the religion, Phariseeism, which connects to star worship, as I pointed out, or what we call today Orthodox Judaism, was based on man-made traditions, Kabbalah, and not the God-giving teachings of the Old Testament prophets. Jesus further said that theirs were the commandments of hell, and that the new converts of Judaism were twice the devils that their teachers were. What a stunning, yet entirely truthful indictment of the Jews' religion. The Jews exoterically depict Leviathan as an evil beast from the sea, who will be hunted and killed by the Jews. His flesh will be provide food for the Jews of Jerusalem, and his hide will be a tent for the pious. This is clearly an exoteric portrayal from a much deeper occult meaning. If Leviathan, aka Melkut, is the egregious god of the Jews, it makes no sense that the Leviathan would be hunted down and eaten by them, unless the hunting of Leviathan is a metaphor for anti-Semitic persecution of the Jewish people that is fostered and furthered by Jews themselves. Is eating of the flesh of Leviathan a satanic twist on what Jesus said? Recall that Jesus stated, "Whoso eateth my flesh, drinketh my blood, hath eternal life, and I will raise him up on the last day. For my flesh is meat indeed, and my blood is drink indeed. He that eateth my flesh and drinketh my blood dwelleth in me, and I in him." John 6:54-56. Flint explains the esoteric teaching within the Kabbalah that accepts the evil of Leviathan, who is a god of war that will subjugate the earth under Jewish rule. God gives the righteous Jews serpentine protection through the magical ability to summon serpents from the lower regions to come and do their bidding. Ultimately, say the rabbis, through supernatural magic, Leviathan himself will take up their cause, encircle the earth like Saturn, destroy their enemies, and finally serve as the light of the world and as covering defender of the city, holy city of Jerusalem. The worship of Leviathan, the Jewish serpentine deity, is the esoteric worship of Satan. Flint explains, more pertinent to the discussion at hand is the revelation of the Judaic religion and its Kabbalistic aspects literally advocates and practices veneration, admiration, and worship of the serpent as deity. Jesus' bold and truthful declaration to the Jews was that by their wicked acts, and as a result of their religion, not ethnicity, being man-made and based on the traditions of the elders, they had proven to the generation that is a nation of people and offspring of vipers. The Lord's exact words were, ye serpents, ye generation of vipers, how can ye escape the damnation of hell? Note Trump always doing this pose, the water pose.
I never noticed that.
Adonis can mean Lord, like Baal, Lord of the earth. Judgment Day is over here on the left of the Kabbalah tree, the moon, Catholicism. Malkuth, souls of fire, like hell. Malkuth also equals 10. Osiris rising, the son of perdition. Similar to their text versus what's in Revelation that it states. Abaddon, a bad dawn. What was the first moon landing thing? Apollo 11, Apollo, sun god. 11, duality. His twin sister, Artemis, was our second moon shuttle. Artemis, the goddess of sudden death, died suddenly. Anyone? I said before, they want to have a new world order between the two rivers. I'm just showing that map again. Why are the angels bound to the river Euphrates? This Greek word dio, bound, is later found binding Satan during the millennium, in the same way that the angels were bound to the river Euphrates. Why? In the Old Testament, the river Euphrates along the boundary of the Garden of Eden, when God made his covenant with Abraham, he gave the land from the Nile to the Euphrates. Osborne writes in 1 Enoch 56, 5, 57, and 3, the angels of punishment turned to the east to the Parthians and the Medes to get them to attack Israel. This is very similar for those with the angels bound in the great river Euphrates. This language might be here to explain that God is binding the angels from doing more than they are permitted to do for this timing. Later, the Euphrates dries up, so the kings of the east could conquer the people there. This is interesting, because over here, this grace and good founder of Mithra was a guaranteed perpetual victory, the epitaph most glorious, signifying the power of bestowing the Harvaran Sea, given to Ahura, Mazda, and Mithra alone. Mithra is one of the yachts, and is spoken of a god who goeth through all the regions dispensing glory. He goeth dispensing sovereignty, increasing victory. The supremacy of Mithra is also shown by an enormous number of names of kings, princes, and nobles, containing the name of God, and not only in the later days, but also in the earliest times. The conquering kings of Persia established their religion wherever they carried this victorious arms. Again, connecting with the Magian occult. The Persian arms had laid low the temporal power and previously reigned the cities of Chaldea, and the priests and the conquerors, the Magi, were established in the highest places and representatives of the religion of the court. But the Iranian religion was not strong enough to resist the fascination of the ancient faith of the conquered and reach back, as it were, the night of the time, preserve the science of the heavens, the knowledge of the followers of Mazda. So strong was this influence that centuries later, the Rome was believed that the native land of Mithra lay on the banks of the river Euphrates. If they were unable to say that the Mesopotamian religion of Magi was entirely transformed, we can assert that it is absorbed by the many new elements that is assumed entirely the new form. So again, Mithra has a connection with the base of the river Euphrates. The son of perdition has power over the four angels. Like I said, the four angels last time is connecting with the four elements in the black stone, aka black rock. Not showing up. Anyways, doesn't matter. I put two of the same slides because sometimes that glitches up. So AI, we will become like gods, right? That is the merging of the empire and iron and clay. Oh, that's what I wanted to show. The 666, protons, atoms, and something else. That's the symbol. And connecting with the iron and clay. They want to represent the golden age of the empire of Babylon. That's what the golden head would represent. And
Right.
merges with machines, iron and clay. And it says that the days were not cut short, no human flesh would survive. Now they
Right.
have Trump, and they want to establish Barron probably as the new Nimrod, but the days are cut short. So I wonder. Again, I'm speculating because he's really tall. That would be Nephilim connection. And Hermes, I was doing a little bit of Sumerian. What would this mean? And I come down to this: His Highness the Hero, the divine ordinances of eternal youth. Just like the Garden of Eden. Oh, New Age, and
Yep.
Bible isn't God's word. Oh, you don't need to trust that. It all comes back down to the beginning. So, anyways, I made this shorter by 10 slides, and I still went way too long. So I do
No, you're
apologize.
fine. Oh,
Um,
stop.
Somebody was writing in the comments that says, "Never mind, go as long as you like." I love listening to this stuff for hours. So I apologize, but thank you for being such a
Don't.
gracious host.
No, oh my God, you put in a lot of time, Brandon, doing this. You must have spent days doing this and researching. I know
Yesterday,
you, yeah, yesterday.
I've been
Wow.
so sick. I was not able to even. I had
Oh.
plans on doing this Saturday, Sunday, and I was over here going, my eyes are like watering paper. I can't even look at a screen. So,
Some people can do that. See, it would take me hours and hours and days to do this, but some people are really quick like you.
uh,
My son Brandon, he can do the same thing. He like does his term paper and 2 hours before it's due. I'm like, how? How do you do that?
yeah,
I can't do that.
no, I totally get that.
Oh my
Um,
God. This is awesome though. Thank you so much. And I'm sorry you're sick, but thank you so much for doing this and coming on the show and showing us this amazing symbolism. That's awesome.
well, thank you for having me on. Like I said, I wanted to
Yeah.
customize it. Hopefully, it answers folks for the Nimrod Hermes. I try to
Yeah.
specify. Does that make more sense for you?
Yeah, it did.
Okay.
It
Okay.
did. It really did. Thank you. Well, where can our listeners find you?
Yeah. Man a Daily podcast on Rumble and YouTube. Always recommend the Rumble because you never know if they're going to snipe my YouTube channel for I said the wrong word. I'm trying
I
to be
know.
very delicate with saying certain things with just a letter or giving more context that I'm going after a ideology with you worship U tree. Look it up, folks. It's a thing. And it does connect with conifer trees. And then Krollology, like my last name, Kroll, Kroll, ology, lore underscore 101. Yeah, that's where you can find most of my stuff. But if you don't like controversy or you think that some topic's going to hurt your feelings, do not follow me because I get a lot of cranky people, and then they all say you're not humble, you're not this, or you're hurting the body of Christ. And I'm like, I threw everything I had at this. So if I am, I do apologize, but I threw everything on the altar of convenience to say, God, you know what? Feeding the sheep is more important than retirement funds. So be
Yeah,
that.
I don't think you've offended or said anything to offend anybody. So, I mean,
Some
you're
folks do
just,
that.
I know some people get offended for every little thing today.
Yeah.
It's your generation. It's not my generation. We would say stuff and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We would just say stuff and it didn't even mean anything. We would just say it,
Mhm.
you
Well, that's
know?
what it used to be. Is
But
you could have a
yeah,
debate and chit chat and come to the what you
yeah,
like. Again, I'm always explaining to folks. I'm always emphasizing because I'm watching something like a Nick Fuentes dude, and I'm like, dude, you sound really stupid because you keep emphasizing an ethnicity when you're arguing. You need to emphasize it's an ideology that I'm against that is consistent. Start
yeah,
unraveling that because otherwise, yeah, I'm going to agree with them. You sound really racist. That's what I'm trying to do in contrast is provide context so that when you are condemning something and you're starting to feel nervous, be like, no, because this is what Christ condemned. No, this is elemental worship. I don't want to do that. That's what I'm trying to present and give the saints intel so that they have confidence to go boldly and to speak on behalf of the kingdom. So,
yeah. Well, I hope you can stay where you're at for a little while longer so you don't have to
I,
go and, you said you may have to go find a job rather than doing this, if that's the
a little
case.
something if I had to, like, I could always use a little, like last month, I just barely got by because my buddy helped me. He threw in a little extra money for some odd jobs I was doing. I was like, thank you, because that literally just helped pay for this month's rent. What folks are contributing now is paying for like car tax and all that and a little bit of groceries. But not gonna lie, it's a little bit like month to month, like, okay, it's all on you, God. I'm trying my best here. I'm trying to make ends meet as much as I can because I wouldn't be able to write, compose, do these presentations plus to all the reading and researching that I do without the support of the fans. So again, shout out to all those who have.
And that brings us to an end of another episode. I want to thank my dear guest and friend Brandon Kroll for taking the time, even while under the weather, to join us today to share his incredible insights. Remember, the symbols around us aren't just designs, they're ancient languages spoken in silence. Each symbol we've discussed today is a story, a piece of a larger puzzle. And if you've enjoyed our conversation, please follow us on your favorite podcast platform, give us a 5-star rating, and leave a positive review. Your support really helps us bring more fascinating content like this to you. And if you have an unusual story or a strange encounter and would like to be a guest, please reach out to us. So remember, keep connecting the dots and let's uncover the hidden meaning around us. Until the next time, take care. Bye.
Hey, what do you say? This whole town could be red by the end of the day. If you feel alright, we can throw it and drive. With the radio up so loud they can hear us a mile. Me and you, nothing to do. These days they come and go. Me and you, nothing to lose. I feel it in my soul. So let's let the good times roll. Down, but never come down. When the sun comes up, we'll be feeling how we do right now. My heart's on fire, coming down to the wire. While the world sleeps, we'll keep burning brighter and brighter. Me and you, nothing to do. These days they come and go. Me and you, nothing to lose. I feel it in my soul. So let's let the good times. Me and you, nothing to do. These days they come and go. Me and you, nothing to lose. I feel it in my soul. So let's let the good times roll. So let's let the good times roll. Let's let the good times roll.